friends. Give me sight beyond sight.
It is Wednesday, my
Hello. You're a 3D printer.
Apparently there's a party.
Got a 3D printer there.
Someone is organizing a party after 6 p.m. I think it's 3D printing needs 3 a.m.
Wow.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Jesus Christ.
That picture is perfect.
Ready, guys?
Yes, that is.
Oh my God, I just ran in.
Everybody up! Everybody wake up, Artie, let's go! Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to this week's, first show of the year. This year's first B2P. What's up, y'all?
First one,
Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to another great year. Looking forward to seeing all y'all in the chat each and every time. Got a fucking amazing bunch tonight. Check y'all out. Shout you out here in a minute. Shout out before we get started to our pilot of the week, the one only Mr. Spat. Let's go. Birthdays. We got Balda, original OG Goon, Balda FPV. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Benoit, Fink, Benoit.
Happy
Happy birthday, Duck FPV. I can't give him a quack.
I told you I know of at least 2 more ducks, Duck.
We got Vivian Tan over at Axis Flying. Happy birthday. And last but not least, Trinity. Yes, I play this birthday tomorrow. Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday, Trin.
So when she jumps in the chat tonight, make sure y'all wish her a happy birthday. Last but not least, next week we have the Street Leak. I can't talk. Street Leak. I can't speak. Street Leak. I can't speak. All right, we have the Street League Spec Squad in the house. The one and only B Rice and Sky FPV joining us for a convo and interview. Fucking super excited about that. So make sure. You're welcome, Benoit. Happy birthday. So make sure you check us out next week. We'll be hopefully on time for the interview. And I'm super excited. DRL pilot in the house. Let's go with that.
First time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be so if you have any questions and want to know what it's like to be on, that level of drone racing and fucking, we'll be taking
I'm
questions.
gonna challenge him to a race in a simulator.
Do
kidding.
it. Yo, y'all should have the fucking shit open and we'll be like, yo, you got liftoff, bro?
Yeah, right. Imagine.
It would
That would be
amazing.
embarrassing.
That'd be amazing, actually.
We'll make a course and then we'll practice it all week. We'll get as fast as we can.
And he'll
you have
still
to beat
smoke
us all.
And he'll still
You have to beat us
smoke
all in
everybody.
one
Yeah.
lap. No practice on the track. Let's go.
Do you even sim, bro?
Do you even sim, bro?
He'd still smoke us all.
I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
Well,
it's,
we have Mad Chiller the Genius, though. We could get him to send some sort of hack into his computer to slow him down.
I don't know. Once Chiller gets going, man, he's fast.
He is
Yeah, for
fast,
sure.
dude. I raced him
Yeah, really.
in the Tiny Whoop Go, bro. He kicked my ass in that.
Tiny
He's
whooping.
fast.
I need to get back. I've been playing Liftoff. Have you guys been checking out the new beta map at all yet? Like anybody in the chat checked out that new map in Liftoff? It's fucking ginormous.
I haven't touched a sim in like a month.
Ah, dude, that's the only thing I can do right now. Let me tell you, it's awesome. I actually downloaded the Whoop package for Velocidrone. It's awesome, dude. I mean, there's like 70 maps, 70 courses, something like that. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but there's a tremendous amount of them. And I love the physics of Velocidrone. I feel like it's so accurate, Yeah,
definitely. I love Velocidrone. I think it's a great sim. The first two, I mean, I got Liftoff. I got V-Drone shortly after I got Liftoff was the first one that I got, but
yeah.
Velocidrone was actually the first one that I got.
Yeah.
Mine
Well,
was
because at the
DRL
time
was the
everybody
first
was
one I
just
got.
like, "Oh man, the physics of Velocidrone are just so good."
I mean,
Yeah,
they
it's
are.
FPV air.
Yeah.
They're very
They've always
good.
been relatively tight and pretty realistic. As far as
Yeah,
I
dude,
can
you got to
tell.
see like in the Whoop class, I think it's like $5 for the package. It gives you access to every Whoop that they have, all the tracks. But they have different props you could put on each one. They have they got all the different drones like the Tiny
the
Hawk, the
props.
Mob 6, the Acro B, the
Did
B
you-
Brains,
have
like
you-
all of those.
Have you played the Liftoff micro drones version yet?
No, I'll try that.
You should try it. It's really awesome, and the fucking environments are dope. I mean,
I got a free
really
copy of that
dope.
from
Yeah.
Facebook. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Is it a beta too, or
No, that's its own thing.
That's its own thing, yeah.
It's its own
where
simulator.
do you get it? You got it on Steam?
Steam,
or-
yeah. If you search
Yeah,
for
you
download
just gotta
that
search
later.
Liftoff Micro or something like that.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
Check
it's
it out.
separate. It's separate from the Liftoff regular game.
It's like $10-15 or something. I don't even know how much
Yeah,
is it.
I don't mind spending.
I don't even know how much it
is.
is anymore.
Right now, it's my only way to fly.
much is it?
Until I build,
I like it. I haven't spent a ton of time on that. I spend more time in the main Liftoff. I mean, it's dude, just all the user shit on Steam for Liftoff is what really always kept me there. You know what I mean? I can.
Yeah, that's kind of what brought me to Liftoff and why I've always that's been the main platform I've simmed on is because of all that shit.
I think I've spent equal time on multiple different sims. It's all really just been a tool to me. If I play Liftoff, it's probably because I want to play with other people.
I
But
got.
if I want eye candy, I'm playing
I think
like Uncrashed or
W-
something.
When you got micro, was that when I was fucking kept spamming everybody? When they launched that, they did a giveaway and they gave away X amount of copies. And I've always scored on those. I used to score. I scored my son a copy of Liftoff back in the day.
Yeah, you
Just
mentioned
get a
it,
copy and
I just
fucking
kept refreshing that, and I saw a code. I was like, "Oop, mine."
snag. Yeah,
I mean, what I think the simulators are great for, besides keeping you sharp if you're not flying outside, whether it's bad weather or whatnot, is exactly what I'm using it now for. Because I have a new controller. It's totally new, total different. Well, it's not even that much
absolutely.
different anymore because they changed the gimbal sticks on it. But it really, I put like 40 hours on it at least. You know what I mean? I was playing it for 5 hours a day.
You
know,
gotta
but-
put stick time on the sim with your new radio because that's gonna like change the way your
Yo,
quad feels
so
because of the radio.
FYI,
Danish Stallion in the house.
Liftoff Micro Drones is on sale right now for another 14 hours for $11.
Go get it. Where's that link?
In the
Somebody
chat
drop that
already.
link.
It's already in the chat.
Right now.
Killer on top of it. Happy New Year.
What up, Danish?
New Year, new
Happy New
links.
Year, y'all. New links.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna wait because I know if I go to download that now, I'm gonna freeze up.
You can
Yeah,
you can buy it. You don't have to download it right away. You can.
That's true. Well, I got 14 hours anyway. It's plenty of time. I'll set it
Don't
on my
forget.
14 hours, you good.
And if you don't own Liftoff, you can get Liftoff.
I have Liftoff.
If
Yeah.
I didn't, not you specifically, silly. If you don't own Liftoff, you can get Liftoff Micro Drones and all of the DLCs for $30 right now. It's on sale, which is actually on that same link. That's not bad.
All the DLCs.
The only downside, dude,
ACLs?
I jumped in the beta, right, to play the new Liftoff map, and I couldn't find it. And I'm like, where the fuck is that? And I posted up on the community. I'm like, yo, I don't see the map, and I know I have the beta. What the fuck? And then while I was like trying to figure it out. I figured it out. If you have Slipstream enabled, it doesn't show you the map because it thinks you want to play Slipstream and chase the cars or whatever. So if you ever get in that situation where like I don't see it, it's because
maybe that's why I haven't seen it, because I am on the Slipstream.
You're on Slipstream? Yeah, you just have to go in and turn it off under one of the settings. And then all of a sudden all the maps come up. I think it's actually up at the top. It was like
DSLs,
right there.
Chad, always with them DSLs.
DSLs?
Yeah, dick sucking lips. Hey boy.
He does have nice lips.
He does, doesn't he? Fuck
great.
her up.
Somebody know what I just got done watching? Off topic. You guys, I'm sure you know Yellowstone. They have prequels. So now they got 1836 and 1923 or whatever it is, bro. Don't ever watch that show. It's brutal. Fucking brutal.
Which one?
Off topic.
What the hell are you talking about?
1883.
It's horrible. 1880, whatever. Yeah, it's one of those years.
You don't even know what he's talking about.
I have no
I know what
idea
he's
what's
talking about.
going
I
on.
watched that shit.
You watched it already?
What is
Fuck
it?
yeah, I watched it.
What is it
It's
on?
crazy, bro.
It's a prequel to fucking
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone.
Oh yeah. Okay, I know what you're live from the urinal.
Scalping.
It's
fucking
Cementkid.
Oregon
No, I
Trail
was
shit.
just pouring. I was just pouring more. I would have muted my mic.
He's putting it right next to the bowl.
You ever been gaming online and then fucking somebody else and hear somebody pissing? You're just like, what the fuck, bro?
God damn, you make me have to pee.
So I went out right before, or I went out where the pilot of the week was rolling.
Moist thermal bearing couple, or
The thermal
What
bearing.
thermal?
Yo, how about that robot dog printer though?
yo, I'm trying to figure out the purpose, but
That's a multi-platform
it.
dog.
That is a
Yeah,
fuck.
it is,
Not only you can print and fucking murder
what
somebody.
a slut puppy.
Well, yeah,
With the
Those
fucking
are
robot
gonna be
dog.
like multi-platform robots. Like you'll be able to do a lot of different things. The main purpose is kill people.
Mount a fucking
Chase you down and fucking
minigun
3D
on top
print
of
your
that
coffin,
bitch.
Those are going to be infiltrator dogs. I'm telling you, an army of those running across the battlefield is going to be terrifying.
Yeah,
to
it's
see.
called fucking Skynet.
I'm gonna print this.
It's going to happen.
Print this thing. I'm gonna fuck you with. Fucking hell. That's pretty dope, though. I mean, actually, I'm starting to see them already. You can buy miniature versions, like desktop versions of those dogs. They're still $700-800. Yeah, they're between $500 and $800 on average, upwards to $1,000, and they're fully programmable. You can fucking
You could print
do
its
all
own
sorts of shit.
attachments.
Yeah, exactly.
That is right. Dude, that's some fucked up shit. Imagine it's like some Terminator shit. Dog just prints off some fucking shit, caps you with it.
Just
Now we
printing
got
off
three,
fucking hand
three
grips.
restaurants around here with robot fucking waiters.
Servers.
Yeah. That's always fun.
That was a thing in Japan for a good while. Fucking
Well, you should
Robot
see it around
waiters.
here with all these fucking just rednecks go get fucking angry as fuck about it. It's hilarious. I've never
fucking
in my life.
A Yorkie
Like,
robot dog.
fucking Yorkie.
Yo, I'm not gonna
robot.
lie. If I had 800 laying around and I just didn't care about,
Fly guy, what's going
I
on?
would
That
totally
guy
buy a
flying.
robot dog for the fucking house.
Absolutely.
They're not they're sizable. I mean, it's probably the size of a medium cat. Like
Yeah, I'd want it
it's
to
like
be that walk of shame robot for me.
go get the drone.
Get the
Fortunately, why
fucking
stop there? Just make that the drone.
That would be insane,
Just
actually.
fly the robot dog around.
If you put GPS on the drone and fed the coordinates to the dog could chase it.
Yeah, that could be fun.
The dog has a GPS. Drone has a GPS. They can fucking see each other.
Speaking of the new year, did anybody do anything for New Year's? Any big huge plans to bring in the new year?
No.
No, everybody
No.
just
Dude.
lounging.
People in this house were like asleep at 10 o'clock. Like nobody gave a fuck. I was like hanging out like, okay, well.
Yeah, it was all Georgia game here. I
Mm.
mean, everybody's watching Georgia game like through the fucking New Year.
Dude, nobody would fuck with you if you had that dog with you. Especially if you had a bigger
Man.
one. Fucking
If it's
robot.
the full size
You had
fucking thing.
the Boston Dynamics dog just chilling right by you
Just
while
gonna
you're
straight up fucking horse kick me.
Just have it aggressively size up anybody that gets too close.
Flying in a bando, no problem. I got a fucking robot dog, bitch. What?
But I want it to have like a yappy fucking Yorkie bark, right?
No. I want mine to drop the brown note.
Drop the brown what?
just drops a bass wave so loud that you shit yourself.
Now that would be fucking.
Of course, that might have bigger effects than you intend, but
I would want mine to talk to people like Lee Army in Full Metal Jacket.
That would be fun.
Dude, your greenhouse looks great, Aces. I saw it on Facebook. That's super dope. What's up, Flyfish? Good to see you tonight, brother.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome.
Fucking yeah, greenhouse. I mean, I have my frog terrarium is like my own miniature greenhouse because I've got plants and shit.
He's also fucking 3D printed fucking robot dogs for it.
Yes, the frog has his own robot dog.
Fucking habitat. He's got his own, It's a good addition.
I'm kind of picking up that idea of having the retrieval robot dog. That'd be hot. Because if you see that one in the video, it had they have an arm and they can just pick shit up. And actually, the one you can buy for $800, it has an arm and can pick shit up. Now I don't know that it can pick up a quad. I don't know what the
Well, I mean,
the load. I don't know. No, I don't know what the load.
The quad.
I don't know what the load
at
bearing
this point,
is.
the quad seems redundant. Just give the thing propellers, and if it
Fly
crashes,
the
it can just
robot
run back
dog.
to you.
I'm still trying to just teach my.
You know
dog
what?
to
No, I
catch
like
my drones.
Dude, that's actually a great idea. We should buy one of the $800 ones, kit out a frame on it.
Donate now. Go buy a chat of coffee.
And
so
then we
can get
will
a fucking...
fucking dude, and we'll turn it into a quadcopter dog. And when it runs out of power to fly, it can just walk back.
Yeah.
There you go. Welcome to the future.
We're gonna have some broken ass robot dogs up in here right quick.
Bunch of broken-ass fucking dogs. Especially
Robot
if y'all
dogs
let me get my hands on it.
look like a fucking dying octopus, legs going every direction and shit, dude. Fucking, that would be actually rad. I'm not gonna lie. Flying robot dogs.
If you could teach it to scoop up prey while you're flying, that'd be sick,
bro, like they probably already have that shit, but like seriously, like that is some mill drop shit right there. Like, fuck, we just launch the dogs, and the dogs just take off, and then just land and start wrecking shit, bro. Like, fuck your couch.
Well, like I said, those are platform robots. They're meant to do different
Crossfire,
things.
of course.
They can carry a fucking rifle for sure.
No ELRS dogs.
Fucking crossfire dogs, bro. What are you gonna be doing? We'll have dog
Crossfire
racing.
dogs.
We can have dog racing. Fucking get a 3D print. I mean, dude, it totally can 3D print shit. It'd be fucking hysterical. Right?
So it's a new year, 2023.
It is.
Can you fucking believe it?
No,
Seems
it's actually
fucking
kind of weird
impossible.
because it was only like the year 2000, 10 years ago.
Exactly. It's fucking ridiculous. Well, what new fucking
It's like-
quad part
it's like
or
the-
quad thing are y'all looking forward to this year?
The Earth made it around the fucking sun, you know, and
That
everybody's like, woo!
Did it happen though?
Quad parts. I mean,
Yeah, what's something that you're looking forward to this year?
I want to see the progression of HD0. I want to see those goggles got my attention. I'm definitely interested. Open source, they already accept analog. Everybody's raving about them. I can't wait to see what HD0 does because, as of now, their video link is the lowest of all the HD systems out there, but the goggles show the most potential.
what up, Squints?
And I'm also interested to see what Orca does too.
I don't know if they're ever going to do anything. I mean,
Yeah, I'm a little worried about them.
they just haven't. They completely dropped the ball, and it's very disheartening for many people. And I think the reality is that if they don't get their fucking link happening, you're gonna have to buy the Orca Goggle 3 because by the time they do, the goggles themselves are out of date. You know,
Right, they're obsolete.
and so with that, it's a little bit
Yeah, I wonder what the whole
concerning.
Well, I'm just curious about them. They're definitely not on my buy
I
list
mean,
radar.
they got mill
know?
contracts to worry about, right? So like,
Yeah. Well, I think that's ultimately the digs there is just that it's They're worried about other things right now.
But speaking of,
Waiting for the competition to calm, or I don't know what the fuck they're waiting on.
I don't think any. I
Come
think
on,
right
Orca!
now-
God damn it!
That's not. That's just gonna
Right
ramp
now,
up.
yeah,
I
we
know-
are in the HD revolution of this hobby.
I know a lot of
Yeah.
people have just kind of given up on the Orca link for now, and I do hope to see them do something, but I'm not holding my breath. But while we are on the topic of HD0, there was a big announcement today in the group. They have gone full production on the goggles now, so goggles are going to become available in all the places, and they lowered the price from $5.99 to $4.99.
Oh, nice. Bro.
And
That's big.
and anybody that has already bought them will get $105 store credit to go towards receivers and stuff. So they've actually got production ramped up to where they're able to kick back to the community that helped get them rolling. And dude, how dope is that? Really, they didn't have to do shit.
That's cool.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. Carl's super dope. And so having said that, goggles are going down to $4.99. They're going to be shipping from California starting January 23rd. The first 300 USA orders are ready to ship from Cali.
Wow.
Shit.
So they're
going to be all over the place.
That's fucking dope.
so the
And you know what? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
USA is going to be shipping from Cali apparently, and international will still be coming from China. Orders are still shipping, and orders that they've been received. Beta testers get an additional 25% discount
Damn.
and receive. So damn, betas get an additional 25% and receive a $79 store credit additionally there. Looks like maybe I missed 25. So what? They were $600. That's 150 off or whatever. Or yeah, well. Okay, I think that might be what it is. Beta, the people that bought the very, very early shit are getting 25% and $79. That's pretty cool.
I'm not mad.
So the bundles, HD0 goggle will be $4.95. Expansion module for analog is $30. Nano 90 setups with the 80 MIPI cables are $65. Race bundles are $5.99 with Race 2 VTX and a goggle 80 mil cable, Nano 90 cameras. Freestyle bundles are coming with the Freestyle VTX $619. Give you 120 millimeter MIPI cable, Freestyle VTX antenna, goggles, and the Micro V2 camera. Everything is available. And if you want to check this out, I'll drop the link here.
I was gonna say, if you got that link, otherwise I can drop it.
So that's pretty dope. For sure. Nice. Whoops. Well, link follows that. Oh, why is it not work? I'm on a Mac. That's why. God damn it. Hold on a second. My bad.
You didn't pay extra for the paste function, didn't you?
Right? I just pasted some bullshit.
Fucking Mac.
Forever more good looking out. Yeah, guys, don't forget to smash that like button. Helps us out. Makes us look better.
God knows we need it. There you go. There's that damn link with all the stuff, so you can check it out. Yeah, I mean,
Thanks.
if I was in the market to buy goggles today, they would be if I wasn't buying DJI, I would definitely be buying HD0 today.
Well, that's what screwed me all up because I had this game plan, DJI, got the controller.
Avada.
And then all these videos started to come out on these HD0s. And you know me, I'm a micro guy through and through. And that
Pasty V.
65 millimeter HD Mob 6, bro. I'm looking at it and I'm like, it looks good, and it's light and it handles and everybody's raving about it. And that's what I was going to say while you were talking. I apologize for that. But the one thing that I think is, it's a gamble per se, but since it's open source and there's so many goggles that are about to be put into the mainstream, I think you're going to see a lot of hardware coming out.
Seems like Carl knows what he's doing, and he's leveraging the income obviously effectively if he's able to not okay, start here, now we're going to kick back and drop the price. Obviously they're getting the kinks ironed out, and I think you're going to see, I wouldn't have any reservations in investing if that's something you're interested in personally. You
I
know?
mean, especially you could integrate analog into it too because I don't know. Like I said, the DJI,
also-
I'm starting to worry about it.
Well,
with
you
the
can get that
latency.
walk snell VT module.
Well-
You can
well-
do an analog module. I mean, I think if you're wanting to get in one size fits all, by far that's your best option.
Well, and we're speculating that, to be fair, that like I wouldn't be like, look, DJI just released transmission. They're aware that, which is just a receiver module, right? And it is based on O3 basic tech. It would not surprise me one bit, and we're still speculating that in these next few DJI offerings, when they come back around about that time to release something hot for FPV, I wouldn't be surprised to see a module. I feel like they really need
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
That'd be awesome
if they did a
if they did.
VRX, and at that point, if you're on HD0, there's real like, and Carl, dude, one other thing, Carl, there were some problems with not being able to get 100 hertz refresh from Walksnail working on the HD0, and he's already worked out one method. I think you can only run it at 720, but you get 100 hertz, and he doesn't even, like, again, it's like he was like when it first came out, there was like, yeah, I don't know if I can do that, and then he's like, oh fuck, okay, here. And he did it. So like it's just like
Nice.
And so he's trying to support the community that is.
That's what I was gonna say. John had something really good to say. He said, "I don't have any experience with HD0, but that's a real community right there." And I think that's kind of the biggest and most awesome thing about HD0 is the open source. Carl's been nothing but fucking receptive to everything, and on top of it. So I mean, I certainly think that's a viable option and one of the better ones out there.
Yeah,
because again, I think the support will be there.
It hurts, don't it?
I was watching one video. They were saying that it's adopted from the whatchamacall shock bite system, and he put his own money into it to save the whole apparatus. Basically, is that right, or did I misunderstand what the guy was saying?
To that effect.
Effectively, you could look at it that way, and I don't know every detail personally. The way Fat Shark if Carl hadn't done it, there would be no HD0 bite shark support, none of that, because Fat Shark dropped it.
They just abandoned it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, I mean,
kudos to that guy, man.
Fat Shark abandons everything. I feel like,
pretty much
it's just like, and that's why, buying a $200 VRX is one thing. Buying a $500 set of goggles again from Fat Shark, I don't know I can do it. I don't know if I do it. Like, they'd have to really come in with something unique.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, it's right around the time where I stopped flying. A year and a half ago, whatever, was just about the time that Fat Shark got dethroned from DJI. They dethroned them. Before that digital system came out from the V1 DJI, Fat Shark was the standard for premium goggles. You had Sky Zone tried to make goggles, and you had different companies, Eachine, stuff like that.
And then Orca came in with their premium goggle, and they were the first ones to really challenge the paradigm of Fat Shark, in analog. I was going to say one other thing. Even if fucking DJI doesn't drop a VRX, I mean, bros, if you really need that tech for certain things, and you can do it, I would have both. I mean, I have Fat Sharks. I have DJI. I like analog on my Fat Sharks, and I'll probably sell all my Fat Sharks and buy fucking HD0. That's probably what I'm gonna do. And then I'll get an analog adapter, and then I'll get whatever else I need. And I have DJI V2s for my work and the other shit that I want to run it on, and fucking go, man. Like,
no, it makes sense.
that's the best of both worlds. But and I'm thankful that I haven't gotten invested in DJIs. Like, if they did drop a VRX a year from now, or the end of year, end of this year, or whenever, speculatively, then I wouldn't be out much. You know what I mean? Really. So it's like, yeah. I mean, if I could afford it, I would fly it off for sure. I mean, I can't, and I've always had to fucking be careful in my investments and try. So I would save my money to buy the best thing I could at the time, generally, but also do a lot of homework on what was going on. Like, Fat Shark was it when I started, though. Like, they were the best. There was no question, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like-
well, they were just the only option that, like,
Or-
They were the
form
only
factor.
premium.
well, for the
premium
form
option.
factor, yeah. There's lots of
Premium
box
option,
goggles and
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. There's a ton
But-
of box goggles, but I mean,
There was a lot of
Doms
options
were
when I
like-
came into the hobby in 2018. Like they had the Fat Sharks, the
Yeah,
Sky
the Sky
Zones, the
Zones.
Amways.
I forgot about the Omways.
I forgot about.
I ultimately went with the Dom V3s, which I rocked for like a year and a half before I got the
That's what- yeah.
HDOs.
I had the
Still
bunch of
have
first
both
pair that I
sets.
showed you guys last week. Then I got the Dominator 3s, and then I got the HDO 2s.
I
Actually, I
don't
got the
miss the Dom
HDO
V3s
originals,
though.
but
Not
the
gonna lie.
HDOs, I bought the HDOs, and the HDO 2s came out like a couple of weeks later.
I mean,
And I was like, oh, fuck. And I sold them right away.
I was sitting on. I have an old pair of HD2s, and then I have my HDO2s, and it's like I might just sell those. And once HD0 gets happening enough, I'll just yank my module out of the fucking HDOs and
Yeah.
put it on HD0. I run Fusion, but
Oh, okay. Well, same
Hold on,
thing.
Mr.
though.
Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
Crowley was good. So for those just joining us, don't forget next week we've got Street League Spec joining us, which would be Jay Rice.
Oh, yeah, he executed.
I know I actually managed to spit it out, but no.
Mark the fucking date and time.
And we have Sky
Another good one.
FPV coming in. And if you're not familiar with Sky, he's a DRL pilot, and that's gonna be super exciting to have fucking
Ripping
up,
it
demons?
out.
doing the DRL. I saw
Demons
he's
is back.
2007 flying off CRT monitors. Yeah.
Future is
I
here, the
remember,
future
dude,
is
people
now.
were doing like with helis. People were putting cameras on helis back then, and it was fucking ridiculous. Trying to stick a fucking transmitter and using a fucking receiver screen on a heli. is
Helis
fucking
just make my
insane.
butthole pucker anyway.
It was insanity.
I would be.
I like
I would-
watching them fly. Like when people have
Oh,
helicopters at
from
the track,
far
it's
the
cool.
fuck away is how I like to watch them fly.
Right.
You're right.
All the people here.
Don't fucking decapitate
TV.
your 42
Respectable different distance.
It actually
yeah.
happened to when I in my old neighborhood in
Yeah.
New York in Howard Beach. The kid from Rockaway, well, it's a friend of a friend. The girl that we know our whole life was the
They
kid's
touched
girlfriend
tips
that got decapitated from the
Well, the
helicopter.
kid down there at fucking Floyd Bennett. Well, he was
That's
his
what I'm
dad.
saying.
His
Same
dad.
guy.
There was the guy. He killed himself. His dad was the head of the AMA down there.
Is that right? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yep.
So they're saying that
But he was on
killed himself?
purpose?
No,
I don't think it was on
malfunctioned.
What a savage way to.
What
I
Yeah,
mean, it's better
exactly.
ways to go,
God
bro. Stick a
damn,
hose in
dude,
your,
just
your
tick-tock
exhaust pipe
right
or
into your
something.
motherfucking- into your
Want to
neck.
see?
That's it. I can't take
That's
it no
not metal.
more. And he fucking
Bro,
flies a
no.
4-foot helicopter.
No,
at his head.
he lost control and it
That's
fucking
crazy.
took his fucking head off.
Yeah, no, there was
God rest his
that
soul.
kid
Fucking
did that.
Terrible. Nothing funny about that. That's for sure. You know?
No, that's why I'll never fly those fucking things. And if I ever have
Well-
the opportunity to fly one, I'm in a fucking like a little cube plexiglass covered from fucking all corners, and
I just never
there's no way
flew
it's
the
gonna kill me.
fucker within 20 feet of myself. You know what I mean?
And it
Just-
has to be
Yeah.
FPV.
You wouldn't want to.
Yeah,
I don't know if you'd want to fly it FPV.
I just don't want to
I don't care
repair the
how
thing.
bad it looks. That's the only way I would fly it, because it's the only way I could fly it.
Well,
No way I'm gonna fucking
you
fly
can't-
it
you-
in line of sight.
Kudos to all the people that
No.
that have like developed skill.
but you
doing
can't
it.
with
It's
a,
like,
the challenge though. You'd have to do a cheater setup if you were gonna go FPV because 3D you need to do
Yeah,
it
you
right.
could do it. Rotor Riot did it a couple of years ago. It looked like shit, but it flew.
I'm not saying you can't fly it.
fucking blast shield.
You can't do it, but if you look at a traditional 3D pilot, they fly upside down and backwards. You can't. How are you gonna see if you're going backwards?
Oh yeah, no,
You
no,
know
there
what I
wouldn't be
mean?
any of that 3D shit happening. It would be just forward and
That's what I'm
backward
saying.
flight.
No,
You
yeah.
could do a cheetah cam too, though. I mean,
you
if you're
could
skilled
do-
enough to switch. You could switch your
You could-
flight vector. You could probably just flip a switch and go to your cheetah cam.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. You can set up a cheater set
Or
switch,
you could just use the force.
or you could use
That's
the
usually
force.
how I fly my drones when I lose signal.
Use the force, Luke.
I mean, you could definitely fly like first person, like in the seat out of a helicopter, like a normal person, and still do some dope shit barrel rolls, just like guys fly
You could
3D
do some backwards
quads.
fly. I, mean,
I would
there's
just
plenty
fly
of
it
people
like
that
a-
can fly backwards.
I'm talking about flying
I would fly it like a
upside,
quadcopter.
upside down and backwards, though. That's something that's a common way to fly a 3D heli, upside down and backwards. So when
Like
you're
I've messed around on a sim with them, like unless you're flying 3D, like they ultimately do fly similar to a drone, like same controls.
When you get
It's
it,
when you flip it over and then do the
I
another
never
thing.
flew.
That's
I never flew
yeah.
3D, but I flew helicopters before.
I
They're
flew
similar,
3D,
but
and they're-
I felt drones were easier than helicopters.
when you
Oh,
idle,
drones are way easier.
so when you hit the idle up switch on a helicopter, so traditionally when you up your throttle, pitch and stuff goes, your pitch and stuff goes up, and your fucking the force was weak with me. Yeah, I broke plenty of helis. So when you first arm a fucking heli and you throttle up, the cyclic goes up and you just go up and you have normal throttle control. But once you get into the air, there's a switch. There's an idle up switch where it becomes like a three.
levels them out.
Becomes like a
Yeah.
no. It literally idles up the head. The head
It goes into fucking super mode.
the head goes crazy
I
fast.
flew them on simulators.
I'm
too.
finishing my fucking explanation.
No, sorry.
When you hit that switch, it literally does that. Mid stick is changing the pitch of the blades. So from mid stick up, you go up. From mid stick down, you go down. Very similar to what a 3D quad does. But the rotational speed actually doesn't change anymore. You're no longer changing throttle. You're changing pitch. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? More or less. Well, you are changing throttle a little bit, but it's not as much. It's mostly just full tilt on the rotor, and you're just primarily changing the pitch of the blades of the cycling.
Yeah.
A whole lot of nope.
Let me ask you a
It's
question.
insane, dude.
So,
it's fucking crazy.
Now, obviously, people that fly in 3D helicopters, they have the spring activated on their left stick, right?
No.
Centered.
No.
Really?
No.
I would think they would. So at least you have a zero position.
No.
You know?
It's just like a quad. I mean, I flew it exactly like a quad.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you have springs on you have your yaw springs and your pitch and roll, but
Right.
throttle
Your
is not.
throttle is off.
No, it's not like a DJI. It's fucking because you need to start at zero. You're gonna land like a quad. When you're done flying in 3D, you come out of idle up and you regain traditional throttle control.
Oh, right.
And
yeah,
then
so-
the mixer. So as you pitch, as you throttle up, the mixer is changing the pitch of the blades. And then, like I said, once you hit mid stick, idle up, now you're in 3D, and it fucking thing goes yee, and it's just fucking, dude, it's nuts. Because it just
608. That's always been my thing. Is once I found out about helis, it was like, oh yeah, if you crash this, that's gonna be $500.
That's what my friend who had one years ago. I wanted to get one. He's like, no, don't. I was like, why? He's like, because it's expensive as fuck. I was like, well, how much did that cost? He's like, oh, this probably like $600 because it was like a smaller one. But he was like, but you're gonna crash it. You're gonna break it. It costs almost as much as the fucking the helicopter itself to fix it.
a good like 450, like a T-Rex, you're setting about $1,500 for a bird. And then and the good thing about those though is when you get into that class, everything's machined aluminum and carbon. And you're gonna break like your tail booms. You're gonna blow servos. And then the problem is, especially with cheaper helis, is a lot of the linkages are plastic, and there still will be some plastic linkages in a mostly
Your head in the house.
in a mostly
droid, what's up?
in a mostly
boys?
in a mostly machined head, aluminum machined head. In an aluminum machined head, there will be some plastic linkages because you want to create breakpoints, so that way you're not destroying aluminum. And those are cheap. Those plastic pieces are cheap. So like a lot of the linkages, you'll still run in like a plastic, but because when you break, and then you will always break what's called a feathering shaft, which is literally it's a hollow rod that goes between the two blades, and it's what the blade holders effectively spin around, and it's basically what keeps the fucking things level, and you're gonna bend them fuckers all day long, and they're a pain in the ass.
They give me anxiety, those fucking things, dude. I just imagine like the blades snapping off, spinning at fucking 80,000 RPMs and just guillotining somebody's fucking head off.
Right?
You know?
Yeah,
it's scary, those things.
Yeah, if you get
pucker from me,
if
Pin
you
your neck to a wall or something.
It reminds me of the time. It reminds me of the time we went to Pilgrim and Chad crashed his 14-inch quad into the ground. And it was like the scene out of Men in Black, like when the spaceship crashes into the ground. The dirt just fucking. It was like a tsunami of brown dirt, and I was standing like 3 feet in front of it. And I'm like, oh my god.
That was
Almost
funny
died.
because I was trying to kick on my DVR on my Fat Sharks and it went into playback mode. And so I'm in the air and I was trying to hit record.
Pow! Fucking hits the ground. It left a crater in the
I
ground.
was
Not even
fucking-
kidding. No
Mushroom
exaggeration.
Press the wrong button.
It was a controlled crash because all I could see was DVR and then around the edge I could see my feet. And so I'm like yelling. I'm like, yo, I can't see. I got the edge. I was just like, heads up, fucking yelling. And I brought that shit in, dude. And I had the 360 camera mounted on it. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
And
Yeah,
then
with the stick.
yeah, dude.
Oh
That
my
shit was
God.
like it was.
Was that at Pilgrim?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great.
I was
thing.
up over the fucking that train trestle part. I was up over that, and I was like, oh, let me kick on my DVR. For some strange reason, I never record DVR, but for some stupid ass reason, I'm like, click. And when I did that, somehow I held it too long, and it went into DVR playback. And I'm in the air, up over, and I was like, oh. So I started screaming, and I just brought it in.
Oh, that was
Yeah, you
funny.
did.
And it skidded across the ground, and just it was like Men in Black. It was funny.
Oh shit! Mr. Crowley said my hand fractured being hit by a fiberglass blade on a 450. I was done at that point. Yeah, I would have been
Wow.
fucking done.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
you got lucky.
Got lucky as
Yeah.
fuck.
Chop it off.
Yeah, I mean, dude, because
Damn.
so what?
Nice.
John was saying, when you get into a 600, 650, right around that range, you're easily spending 3,000-4,000 on a build, and those things that's what that kid killed himself with.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah,
that, dude.
I
That
tell
just
you,
sounds.
And the thing is, that kid was nasty at it.
Yeah,
too.
he was good. He was real good.
It probably
Like
was
Min
just
Chan,
controlling
Min
to some-
Chan fucking status, same as him.
That's why I see I would see kids fucking flying 3D line of sight really close to themselves. Like, you're fucking out of your mind. Keep that shit away from me. Take your ass over there. I don't want to
Dude,
be.
I will beat your ass if you fucking fly your heli close to me. There's not going to be any questions. You're just going to get a fucking right hook.
800? Yeah, 800 is big. That's a big bird. Big.
Jesus
Helicopters.
Christ.
Why the
Oh,
hell-
there's an
Is
800
fucking
class?
too
Did
big.
you
It
have
almost
a
looks like the toy
450
Walmart ones that are
first?
fucking, you can just slap it out of the air.
Did you go straight to 800, John? Inquiring minds want to know. Because that's a big bird. Dude, a 600, 650, right around that range, that's a big bird. You're talking... So, to give you an idea,
6 foot diameter.
Put a
Yeah.
rotor, oh my God.
I was gonna say a
fucking condor.
a 450 is
Get in that thing.
is basically the equivalent of a lawnmower deck. That's a 450, right?
That's crazy.
And it's
42 inches.
basically, yeah. I think we could do the math, and you got to add some for the, the rotor and all that. But yeah, but
Yeah, fuck that, dude.
that's if you.
You're giving me anxiety talking about this.
I'd have to look up I'd have to look it up. But yeah, and then you get a 600, and it's like you're talking, fucking a very big, fucking. But
I didn't
800.
realize they had that many classes.
Oh yeah, it's just like anything. Yeah. There's
You know what the thing is about all those? I mean, it goes for any craft or car
you're
that
crazy.
you drive line of sight, with the exception of I love racing. When you're racing line of sight, with cars, it's one thing, but bashing and flying line of sight, it's kind of to me like a video game. I'll enjoy it for 2 days, and then I'm like, all right, and I'll throw the thing in my closet, and never touch it again. FPV was different because
It's more immersive.
FPV, it's so much more immersive, and every flight is different. I mean, you got guys that go to Sundances over here, which is actually a dear friend of mine is the president of the flight club. But if they go there and they fly their maybe different models, but they go to the same airfield, wide open, put that thing up in the air, fly it for 3 hours, come home and do it again the next day. I never could get satisfaction out of that, whether it was a heli or a plane or a wing, doesn't matter.
Sounds like I have exactly
if I fly
zero
my
now.
quad line of sight, I get bored after
Instantly, right? Me too.
5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
I never understood the rule in the FAA rule books about line of sight and all that shit against FPV in the beginning. It's because all right, in my opinion, FPV flying is safer than line of sight flying, and 1,000 times
Yeah,
easier.
I agree, because they have no depth perception.
None.
Just
Like, how are
speaking
you
to
gonna
all
go fly
this-
around that fucking tree? Okay, you could do it with your Mavic as you're looking at your laggy ass screen, or you could put some goggles on and do it with precision.
Well, hey guys, after all this high anxiety talk about helis, Smoke them if you got them. Dab time for sure.
Fucking
I'm just gonna
fucking
yeah,
you
dab
could
time.
put your robot dog
But
on.
that said, though,
We
I
could
am
do-
getting better at line of sight flying.
We could do
Still can't fly nose in though.
dog deliveries
I
with
crash every time.
the 800. The best way to learn line of sight nose in is to effectively go stabilized or use like with helis. When you learn them, you get what's called you would get a coaxial. So it's basically it's got two sets of props and it doesn't even use a tail rotor and it's stabilized by the nature of that well it might have a tail rotor but it's not a 3D chopper at all and you literally just spend tons of fucking hours orbiting yourself nose in and shit like
I haven't
that.
even put level mode on my quad in 3.5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be one way to. I mean, if you set it up, you could definitely learn nose in line of sight in level or fucking a stabilized
Oddly
mode.
enough, what's been
up,
training me to
Arctic?
fly line of sight better has been Rocket League. Oddly enough, because I mean, you're looking at a
Nice.
fucking basically an RC car and
Yeah.
flying it around, and it's all line of sight. So it's the same fucking nose in concept when you're doing that. So I've gotten better at line of sight flying because of Rocket League, not because I've been practicing line of sight flying.
Definitely 608. Hey, shout out to Maddie Blunts and just public service announcement. Maddie Blunts is not It's Blunty. And please stop emailing him with your fucking questions for
That's
But
Blunty.
have you
Crazy.
ever seen It's Blunty and Maddie Blunts in the same room at the same time?
It's like
I would
Janet
like
Jackson
to.
and Michael.
Yeah, I'd like.
It's plenty. I actually met him when he first got into the hobby. He just was building his first quad. Me and him we were chatting back and forth for a while. He's telling me about his build, sending me pictures and everything like that. And I haven't spoken to him in years, probably 3 years. That was 3 years ago.
Bannister
And just-
Post in the
he's-
house. Happy New Year, boys.
He's still on my
Happy New
thing,
Year, bro.
you know. And I sent him a message.
How about that
About,
Swift Duck logo?
The not the HD Zero,
Yeah,
was
it's
it
dope, huh?
FDJI? But he knows his shit. That kid, bro. He comes right back. He tells you, he's very up to date.
Yeah, oh,
with
no,
Blunty?
no. It's
Yeah.
Blunt. He's great. Knows his shit. Got in.
Yeah.
Getting good, but he's not Matty Blunts.
He's
Matty Blunts
not
is
Matty
not
Blunts.
him. And,
Agree.
Matty Blunt
Dude,
said,
you-
"Stay the fuck out of his slide out of his DB.
Slide out of his DMs with that
fucking,
bullshit.
You guys want to hear a funny story? So speaking of
first
this,
story of
this
the
is
year.
this is what reminds me of this actually. So I posted like fucking 7 things between Instagram and YouTube over the last 2 days. So now I'm paying attention to my channel. I'm looking, searching, everything like that. Next thing you know, I type in Cement Kid, and another Cement Kid comes up. He's a rapper. So I was like, this motherfucker. I can't believe he stole my name. Turns out that the videos were from like 7 years ago. So he had his name before I did. I was about to text him like, yo, dude, don't fucking take my name. You know what I mean? But
Yo, I've
turns out
done
that
that
I stole
before.
his name.
You're that asshole.
So it was a couple years ago when I first started flying FPV, and I started actually putting flying videos and shit. And I noticed some other person with the name of Swift Duck popped up, but it was like something Swift Duck Gaming or something. I was like, yo, you can't have that name. That's my name. I've been here longer than you. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll change it. Dude changed it.
So there's
Yeah,
actually
really, that was very
You
nice.
Yeah,
scared
he
him,
did.
dude. You're a bully.
there's
Dude, he
a
had
I would've
10
been like, you know
subscribers,
what,
dude.
fuck you.
He had like 10 subscribers.
There's
and
a
I was
coffee-
Like,
Turns
yo,
out his whole
you
business
can't
failed
do
because
that.
you made him change his name. He lost traction, and
Some
that was
Fortnite gamer.
there's a coffee shop out of Florida named Mad Chiller. Which I
got it,
thought,
guy.
Really?
yeah.
I mean, speaking of coffee,
Yeah, but your
Amazing.
name is very creative, dude, because it's a play on letters. Like it's very creative. I love that, man, Chilla. It's cool.
But
You know?
that's been my nickname and alter ego since the fucking 80s, basically. So it's like, I think I was given that name in high school originally, and then when I started producing and DJing and doing shit back, just at the end of high school and into college, that's where I basically adopted it official and.
That's cool. You know how I got my name? When I was a kid, I used to box. So a good friend of my father, this guy, Bobby McGuire is his name. Great guy. He runs the FDNY Boxing Association. He's in charge of all the FDNY, NYPD, Battle of the Badges and stuff like that. So he was short a fighter, and he goes, he grabbed me. He goes, "Oh, you train out of Irish ropes? Could you fight next week? We got a charity event at Copacabana." I was like, "Absolutely," but I was the new guy. So the next thing you know, they were like, get the cement kid, the cement kid, because I wasn't a fireman. They put me in as a recruit. What do you call it? Recruit in training. But I wasn't even in the fire department. But they were calling me cement kid over and over. So when I fought, they announced me as the cement kid, and that was it. It stuck after that because obviously
that's pretty dope.
I'm tripping out on the Risco from South America, but then there's a new music artist named Risco. That would be, that was one thing that I've considered, like whether or not you should, if you really give a shit about your name, like fucking incorporating it and trademarking. I got my name from crossing the street without looking.
Well, man, I mean, as far as the handle goes, I guess it just depends on how serious and how far you're trying to take it.
There are lots of gearheads out there.
I got my name from crossing the street without looking. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. That's funny.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's a true story. Stuck.
That's really funny.
Every 45 seconds is a moment of silence, no matter where you are. You're going to notice it now, right now. After me saying that, the next time it happens.
I'm reading it.
Every 45 seconds is
a moment of silence. My
moment.
cousin told me that one time. True story.
Somebody.
So, what else is
that.
craziness out there?
Right, let me ask you guys a question before I lose track. I'm going to forget. Just a quick question back on drones and FPV. So,
imagine that.
Has anybody played around with the ELRS yet? No. Is it reliable? Is it as good as?
I think that you could definitely get in a reliable system. I think that I
haven't used it, but I've seen people.
I know plenty of people that definitely enjoy it and have set up reliable rigs. And I think it's very popular. As a matter of fact, I was actually going to lead into something that's right now there's some uncertainty with FR Sky, at least under SPI on FC's support in Betaflight, because FR Sky is not fucking helping them, and they're pissed, and they're like, "Fuck it, we just won't do it anymore." So they basically put them on notice, saying like, "Yeah, we'll still supporting stuff via UART, but what does that mean? That means like, what happens with all the FR Sky whoops? You won't be able to update, or you like."
Use them.
So in that case, ELRS, they actually posted in order of current popularity, and it was ELRS, Ghost, and then Crossfire. So Crossfire is currently third according to Betaflight, and Express LRS is number one. There's
what I'm loving about.
I just think the accessibility of it and the cost of entry is.
Yeah, it's cheap.
I think that you need to do your homework, because when it came out, it was not even really finished. A lot of people threw a lot of shit out there. And I think there's some really great modules, and I think there's some questionable stuff. So you need to do your homework and find out, what is definitely the most successful. But I've seen plenty of cats running it, and they love it, and they're totally happy. I mean, even Beta FP.
I've seen a lot of people say they really like
even
it.
a Beta FPV TX, like people really happy, like in some cases. So it's like, I don't have a recommendation personally yet, because I haven't made the switch.
Yeah, I can't either, but Crossfire, I have
that's all I ever used was Crossfire. I had Free Sky. I actually had Spectrum with my first FPV drone with the whatchamacall, the original Whoop, the original Whoop from Horizon Hobby, the original one. That was Spectrum radio. But after that, I was always Crossfire. But what I like about the ELRS is that they're integrating their receivers in the Whoop AIO boards. I love that. A lot of boards. I'm trying to integrate. That's what I'm looking to do now.
There's a lot of boards.
I'm trying to, yeah.
And you can do ELRS.
To do that too.
You can do it in either 900 or 2.4. So you have a choice there. It's just, if you want to get down into 900, you can use it. You can get a TX for that setup.
I agree, Risco. I like it too.
There's a lot of the radios, like a ton of them are coming out with 4-in-1s. There's tons of them just coming native Express LRS. And I was even considering, because I have my Nirvana, and there was talk of being able to flash the internal transmitter over to Express LRS.
Internal, really?
Because they said once you do it though, you can't go back to FlySky, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
but
FlySky anyway.
I didn't even know
actually,
FlySky was
Did
still
they
around
ever
until
did
last
they
week.
ever get any small receivers, FlySky?
yeah, and my Mob 6 is FlySky, and I love it. It was actually way more reliable than the FrSky version. The FlySky version had way better radio link. I honestly think FlySky has better radio link, but not in that domain. But that's neither here nor there.
I only flew
You know.
FlySky once on my Wizard because that's what it came with.
I don't-
Came with that FSI6.
The receiver in that
which I
thing was
had
trash.
I took the fucking gimbals on that, and I had put the gimbals, not the gimbals, the stick ends from that old fucking radio, and I used them on every single radio I've had since. I've been using them since I started flying.
I can tell
know
you,
what?
I won't buy any more FlySky or FrSky whoops. Any whoop or micro AIO board I buy would be Express LRS, and I would make the jump then. And I would buy a TX, and like Artie said, it's way cheaper, and I would make that call then. I just haven't personally made that plunge yet.
It has ultra low latency too. They're saying that's what I like. But you know what? What I was thinking, because
I agree.
it's cheaper. It's cheaper. Plus, if I change my route right now and I shelf the DJI controller and decide to go with the HD0 setup, this was what my game plan is. I'm thinking.
What up,
I don't know
Waldo?
if you've seen it yet. If you have, if you've seen a post on that new Tyrannus radio that's coming out with the big LED touchscreen, it's like $500, bro. It's expensive.
Wow.
But it's sick, dude. It's a nice radio, and it's top of the line. I was thinking maybe get that. This is the new Tyrannus radio. I forgot the name of it. I'll look it up if you want.
I think I know what you're talking about. I mean,
It's probably Edge to you.
a lot of those radios are built for fucking plane guys and
Planes,
shit.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
the gimbals, the electronics, everything is top shelf, which is nice. They're comfortable. They have a nice feel to them. Still to this day, I mean, honestly, the best gimbals that I used was on the Tango 2. I thought those gimbals were, you couldn't even feel them operating in your fingers, in my opinion.
They
I
do
think
feel
got lucky.
nice
Yeah.
until you have to calibrate them.
I want to check out the new Elysium gimbals on the new
The metal ones, right?
Those they're aluminum. They're aluminum
Yeah,
gimbals.
they're all metal. Yeah, they look pretty cool.
I want to swap out the gimbals in my Mambo for the updated ones that they come out with.
It's the
Yeah,
antennas.
see, Bannis is right. That's the thing with the crossfire whoops. Bannis the post made a very good point. It's, there's really no feasible option where you're getting good range and saving weight.
It's not true.
They had those little baby.
You can use
they had those-
the little whips, and those little whips fucking.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've got
you
great.
can fucking.
I've been able to go as far as I could ever want to go.
Yeah, the whips are
but
fine.
you still have to add that external antenna. See,
Well, Express
with
OS is
those-
adding. They have a little. It's a little
It's just a
fucking
little wire that
ceramic.
comes out.
No, they have a little
Yeah.
ceramic box on most of them, and I think it's ceramic. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. It's a little box, and those are good, but they're not like crossfire range type antennas. They're great for whoops and small shit around.
Yeah, how
right?
far you go with a whoop? Though?
But
I mean, that's.
With the
Whoop is in a house.
I think what the benefit and why a lot of people were going crossfire back in the day was the fucking latency. That's why a lot of guys ran crossfire and whoops, and but absolutely, I think that would I trust Express RS to go send something super far right
Yeah, I never
now?
used Tracer.
No, because I don't have enough experience with it personally to trust it in that
I
way.
don't either.
I'm sure
Just saying
some
they have
guys
small
have.
antennas.
Ceramic Box RX. Are you running? Do you have Express RS, Risco? Ceramic Box RX works great. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and I mean it's great, and they're integrated. And that is a benefit, immense benefit over Crossfires. You don't have to actually even carry an extra fucking board. It's on the FC, and and.
That's what I like, integrated. That's what I keep saying. I love I'm trying to integrate everything. I want the VTX. I want the.
I think it's about what
the
you want to
receiver
do.
AIO whoop board that weighs 1 gram.
If you're primarily going to fly micros and you don't expect to do a lot of long range, then go do Express LRS right out of the gate and go from there.
My biggest con with any AIO whoop board that I've built custom is I don't know if because I always fly rate. I don't know if it's because I was putting the JESC RPM filter to them, but I had really bad luck with all the boards. I burn them out very quick, and after a crash, something happens bad. But I haven't found a good AIO whoop board that is durable enough for the way I fly, because I always fly manual, and acro, and I crash hard. With whoops, that's what you do. They're small, they're light, but you have full tilt and you go into a dresser, you're gonna break it. I don't care.
I broke a lot of cameras. I didn't burn up as much FCs. I did from time to time, especially if they had integrated VTX or something. I'd burn those out over time. But I would say if I was really like getting fresh back into whoops, I would definitely be looking at Express RLS. I have a couple whoops here that are fine that I would just run on Fly Sky. I also have an FR Sky JR module I can just swap out. The thing if I was going Express RLS personally, I would absolutely be buying a module and not, like, if a radio has it built in, cool, great.
No, I get a module too. I wouldn't buy a
But if I was going Express RLS, my primary focus would be a module. Because then that way, radio down the road, whatever changes, I don't have to worry about it. And most modules are going to output more power versus an internal link.
I can't remember if it was you. Well, it might have been Bodwell that I was watching that was explaining the difference between, the lower millihertz going up to wattage, that it's not a big difference as far as the range that you gain. It actually gets divided by half and then another half and another half every time you step up in wattage. So it's not like you're going to gain in ratio with more power.
That was in a different context, and that was actually talking directly about DGI and when they were talking about
that was you that said that.
The T-Watt. Yeah, actually, well, I know I have talked about it. I can't say specifically as what you saw, but yeah, I mean, it's just like amplification and things. You need way more power to get actual like twice the range, or it's just when you go 1 watt to 2 watt, it's not twice the range and everything. It's not fucking linear like that. I'd have to fucking refresh, but with radio links and frequencies, that's a whole nother thing. Why would I want to consider 900 on Express RS just like Crossfire? I want to get away from all the bullshit that's in the Wi-Fi, in the neighborhood, in the fucking goggles or 5.8, in all the other people flying 2.4, in the guy that decides to throw a Maverick or Nevada up that's also running 2.4 and fucking 5.8. Like, get my control the fuck out of there. So if I was going to Express RS, I would definitely try to go 900, and then maybe look at a radio that had a 2.4 internal for my whoops.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then you'd have it covered. And then I like to stay modular. Like I was always saying, I want to get a second Crossfire module at some point. So that way, whenever I'm doing a gig, I got a spare fucking TX just in case. You never know, use a full size for my main and have it, at least a micro for a backup, fucking get in just in case. And, at least you can fucking bind it and get it going. I like the Zorro radio. It has a 4-in-1, and you can get Express LRS in it. That one's pretty neat. A lot of guys are like, what's the bigger one? The bigger TX16 or whatever. Sky Didio killed my signal a couple months ago. I used to get hammered by fucking Phantom guys back in the day. Mavics out here blasting. Yeah, so I mean, that's the way I would approach it if I was adopting Express RS personally. And since you're seeing now this, whatever you want to call it, the fact that Betaflight's saying, hey, we're not going to do FR Sky on SPI anymore, that means that has the potential to go away unless FR Sky addresses it. So, remains to be seen, but they basically put them on notice.
Now, FR Sky is also coming out with a new protocol. It's not going to be, what is it that they use now?
ACZST or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, it's going to be different. Yeah. It's a whole different operating system that they're coming out with. I actually read that when I was looking at that controller I was telling you about. And that controller is going to operate on this new protocol So
I
mean,
wouldn't.
Who knows?
For
It's
me, it's like
dangerous with Betaflight, from what you're saying.
it's like with well, maybe not for whoops, but I mean, God knows if they're coming up with a new protocol and they can't even support the protocols they got, I'd steer clear.
Yeah, well, that's why
you know
I
what
talk
I
to you,
mean?
bro.
It's like
Just talk me out of
fucking
things before I buy stupid shit.
no
like,
express
like the
BI
Ivana.
is good for
Talk me
email.
right out of that.
Not yet.
Thank God.
Yeah. See, there
No
goes the moment of
FBI,
silence. You heard it?
LRS is good for email. Risco says.
Yeah. ExpressLRS SPI support on current versions of email are not there.
The
I would live in
modules
the
are cheap
hood.
too for the LRS, man. They're cheap. They're not much. They got the 2-watt modules, like what, $60 or something like that. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's definitely budget friendly. And I'm
Well, I
hearing good
mean, I
things.
think it's which makes it so much more accessible.
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
I haven't really
Absolutely.
sat down and done like all my scientific I'm pretty sure they use LoRa, the LoRa chipset for fucking ExpressLRS. It's fucking pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same thing as Crossfire, basically. But like, it has its advantages and it's newer, you know. And I wouldn't be surprised to see. Who knows what we were talking about the other night? Nobody knows what the fuck TBS is doing. Like, where's the TBS digital module
Dude,
for love of God?
disappeared, bro. I haven't seen anything from them.
They haven't disappeared, but they're definitely quiet. They just moved. The entire thing just moved. Like I know they were setting
They were
up
in China, right? They were
Hong
they were
Kong.
overseas.
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong, right? That's right. Yep. Remember they used to do the live streams from there.
I saw them. Saw them change. They were moving their offices and shit around. They've been doing a lot of shit. So who knows, man?
Are they still there? Or
I'm
they,
sure.
They,
I
Yeah, I
don't know.
wouldn't count them out yet.
I don't know
They still in Hong
specifically.
Kong, or they went somewhere else.
I don't know specifically where the office went.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they were talking about earlier, John. That you can do 2.4
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
900.
yeah, that's exactly
it's
what
switchable,
Chad
which
was
is
saying.
interesting.
It's yes, and Risco is also correct. It is definitely not as
Popular.
oh fuck yeah, right on Aces. Word. That's awesome. Risco's definitely correct in terms that 900 is not as popular. I think you'll find way more. That's what I was saying. I would get a radio. I would plan to try to get a radio with 2.4 built in.
Well,
if I was buying a new radio,
Oh, sorry.
if I was buying a new radio, I would get something with 2.4 ELRS for sure.
I still have my X9D, bro, which is more than fine. I upgraded the gimbals in it. I just got
still
bored
have
of what the Tango 2.
Solid radio.
I have an
It is a
X9D.
solid radio, and it has the,
Go to
it
war
has
with
the
that
module.
radio.
It has the module
Scranton,
bay.
Pennsylvania. Actually, well, the U.S. office is up in Michigan, where Mike Chen's at. Yeah, but long range guys. That's why they went. They did the fucking. Briscoe says, "Yeah, that's because it's 2.4." That doesn't surprise
Good
me.
enough will get you
I would
fail-safe.
expect that the fucking long range guys are the ones that are, and long range guys are not as quote unquote popular. Or the long range community is not as big as the rest of the generalized
FPV.
Yeah, it's
freestyle.
FPV. I think long range is a bit more niche, as compared. There's plenty of guys doing it, but not everybody. A lot of people are quite happy flying either. Some people just fly whoops,
Yeah.
Some people just fly freestyle 20 feet from around themselves, or, ish. 40, you know what I'm saying? Football field around them. Some people fucking wings going out there. If I was doing that, I'd be looking for 900. I also look at 900 from the perspective that if I was building a Cinelifter, flying in a fucking gig that has all sorts of fucking RF and craziness, I want to be on 900 and away from all that shit. So that's and with my big rigs, that's why I was always attracted to Crossfire. When I started flying the fucking big rigs, I'm like, I don't want any chance of a failsafe. As best as I can get. And Crossfire has been that for me. And so the only time I've failsafe in Crossfire was my fault. I didn't fix something. I didn't inspect my antennas and they were touching the carbon.
Same.
Fucking this or
I
that.
don't
It's
think I
always
ever
my fault.
fail-safed on Crossfire.
I did. I dropped the 10-inch one day.
I just personally have no interest in switching to another radio link protocol. It doesn't.
Well,
It's
I
not going to
have
really
one
do
that I
anything for
trust.
me.
If I still had my gear, I would be in the same boat as you, though. Honestly, I don't. So my options are open.
If you're starting
That's why-
fresh, I think Espresso RS is a
Exactly.
great option. I do, and I think that you can. If you're starting fresh, it's a great option for going to cover 80% of what you want to do, probably.
Well, like I said, I'm thinking the ELRS in combination with the HD0 goggles. I could use my Tyrannus controller and then see where things progress with all this stuff, hardware-wise, over the next few months, maybe 6 months.
and I
think
mean,
you're gonna see a lot.
Not
you
for
know?
nothing, you could probably pick up a pair of V2. Like, I got my V2 DJI goggles used. I got a great deal. And so for me, it was like, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? So you grab a used set of DJI, and then you can have that too. For some stuff.
I'm not gonna go both. That's definite. It's one or the other. I know that because I can't afford to do both right now. It's just stupid. If I do one, I'm not gonna do the other. At least not for the foreseeable
You don't have to do it
future,
right away.
anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if somebody figures out, or somehow you see some sort of VRX from DJI at some point. Like I said, DJI transmission was made for their gimbals, right? It's based off the same shit. It's all OcuSync 3, basically. All right, that's the same thing that's in the O3 Air unit. That's the same thing in the Nevada, the fucking, and transmission. And so the cool thing that DJI is doing is that that whole rig, like, you can run transmission and their video links and not have to worry about crosstalk and shit, because it's a closed system, and the way it talks, you're fucking golden. And so with seeing transmission come out for the gimbal, and they're aware that FPV people like options, I would hope to see a fucking small VRX that could receive OcuSync and bind to a fucking an O3 or whatever.
Hold on 1 second. Risco, you're saying that you could use the Crossfire module and you could modify it? Is that what you're saying for the ELRS? Because I have the Crossfire module still. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think the X9D needs the Crossfire mod. It was only the QX7.
I have the Crossfire module in my X9D. It's right here.
But I would
Right next to
probably
me.
be. I need to put my X9D on Edge TX any damn way.
I know that you can change the
There she
R9
goes.
module from FR Sky to or is it FR Sky or is it Fly Sky that makes the R9?
Yeah.
There's FR Sky.
FR
You
Sky,
could
yeah.
change that to
Yeah,
Express
you can put the
LRS.
LRS on it.
And so that's what I was saying with my Nirvana. There's a lot of. Dude, all these transmitters are generic, right? All these fucking things in the radios, most of them are just fucking generic chips. You put whatever fucking firmware on them, and so if you want FR Sky or whatever. Problem is, you have to, if they're already flashed and they have a bootloader and all the things, you have to be a nerd to be able to plug something in and fucking flash it and do the whole nine, and you can do
I'm
it.
sure there's plenty of videos on it.
And that's
though,
what
if
I'm
it's
like, I might flash my fucking Nirvana over to Express LRS, and that way I had at least an internal module, on 2.4. But a lot of hardware can be flashed to Express LRS, so it's something. It's another thing to consider.
I'll look into it. That
and-
would be awesome because that's one less thing. I could just flash my Crossfire module. Just move from Crossfire to
Yeah, I don't-
ELRS now.
I don't think you can flash Crossfire modules to Express LRS, because
I've never heard of it.
to flash.
I never heard of it either.
To flash any of this stuff, you need to be able to get the bootloader, and you're not going to get TBS's bootloader. So that's the reason why if I flashed my Nirvana to Express LRS, I would never be able to go back to Fly Sky because there's no bootloader to get me there. And that's actually part of the reason why they haven't released it publicly yet, as I understand it, because they don't want a bunch of people bitching.
John, I don't think he has.
John, I have
Crossfire.
No, I do. I have.
you still
I
have
still
that?
have 3. Yeah, because I had a bunch of graveyard parts, and I found 3 workable Crossfire nano receivers. So I have 3 of them, and I have the Crossfire module.
Yeah, no way
But
TBS.
the only reason why I'm looking at Switch is because I want the integrated receiver for the whoops. I like that. It takes weight away. It gives you probably, I guess, an extra 30 seconds of flight time.
I mean, the
if you
reality
use
is
those
they're
3 grams.
so cheap. There's no reason not to have both.
Yeah, why not? Just get
it's
the
like,
module. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Just switch the modules out. Like I said, I'm just, my problem is I'm looking at so many different videos and I can't make my mind up. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I have my mindset
think
on
it just comes down
DJI,
to
and then I'm watching videos on the latency, and I'm like, oh fuck, the latency's no
What
good.
are-
Maybe I should do that.
I mean,
what kind of drones do you plan on building in the next 6 months?
I always flew predominantly micros, mostly.
Only? Do you
all
get
my
any bigger
footage.
drones?
Oh no, I got 5-inch. I got this one I was building out. This is the old Remix V2.
I would definitely either way, no matter what you do. If you're going to be using an X9D, I would be looking at putting Edge TX on it. That's my. I'm going to switch everything over ultimately myself. I haven't.
What's the advantages of Edge?
Support lots of fixes that fucking FR Sky has not, or OpenTX has not done.
Biggest thing is support.
For Nirvana. So Nirvana users, there was a group of guys, developers, that they made a fucking open Fly Sky version because OpenTX wasn't doing shit for Nirvana. So a group of devs got together and made Nirvana awesome. And Edge TX took what they did, and since you're seeing more radios with touchscreens, you mentioned earlier, and that was the thing. The Nirvana was one of the first radios that had a touchscreen, and just period. So there was no impetus to support touchscreens just because one radio happened to use one, right? So that was part of it, to be honest. And that was a challenge to get the touchscreen support and keep everything fucking flowing forward. But now you're seeing Zorros and other things that have fucking touchscreens. And so somebody needed to fucking start supporting this properly. And so Edge TX came in and did that. There's many bugs in firmware and even power issues on some radios that OpenTX was not addressing that Edge TX does.
All right, so let me ask you a question. If I was to switch from OpenTX to Edge TX on my Tyrannus X9D, it's as simple as just the same kind of process. You got an SD card, you put it in your computer, download the files to it, and then swap it over to your controller. Is it similar to that, or you actually have to blank out the controller?
There is some.
Well, I mean, the controller, everything is still saved on
lots
the
of
SD
lots
card
of
anyway.
variables, but they have a companion software just like OpenTX, and there's ways. There's no guarantee you're going to be able to translate your models that you've built on the old setup.
I have no models, so I'm not worried about that.
But some people did. But there's a companion software. It's very similar. Yes, you flash it, you do a bootloader flash, you do fucking SD card contents and all of that stuff. Very similar to OpenTX. It's just Edge TX. And basically, you'll get a lot more options, a lot more support, a lot more fixes. And for certain radio users like myself of Nirvana, there was a lot of good shit that comes with going to Edge TX.
So
with the Tyrannus, there's been no fire under my ass to update the Tyrannus yet. But if there was, that's what I'd be doing. Especially if I was looking to get into Express LRS, you're gonna have much better support. If you're concerned about latency within the radio itself, like you're gonna have much better support on Edge TX with new tech like Express LRS. I was reading. I was actually reading your. I'm actually gonna partially answer. I want to actually make sure I was reading that correctly. Actually, I'm gone way back in the chat. All the beta few express weekend swapping modules. Tyrannus needs crossfire hardware mod. Yeah, or I wouldn't even bother with OpenTX anymore if it was me.
Really?
I don't like especially if you've been kind of out of it.
Edge TX yet, but
I mean, look, if everything works great and you're happy, there's no super reason to update. But if you have a problem, there's definitely advantages. And if you're kind of getting back in new in the hobby, you happen to have an older radio, go for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there were problems with certain radios, and there was even some certain issues like in the Tyrannuses and things that got fixed by Edge TX, and there were certain things with how all the protocols work that got fixed by Edge TX, and other things like, I can't get too deep because I don't have all of the info in front of me, but there's definitely a lot of things that were addressed with Edge.
When I last, I'm sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, I'm just trying to read and now.
When the last update I did to OpenTX was probably 2 years ago, and it was maybe when I think it was because Crossfire Shot just came out, and I think I had to do something with OpenTX in order to make it read the module. I can't remember what the logic was behind it, but whatever the case is, my Tyrannus, it was a whatchamacallit, beta flash at the time I did it, and I never fixed it. But every time I power on the radio, it says low battery, something build. I forget what it says. I should just turn it on right now. I'll tell you. It says, let's see, test build warning. Control warning obviously is nothing. Battery warning, battery warning, and test build warning. And I'm like, why is it so annoying that every time I turn on the radio, I got to look at that? So I was thinking of doing something to fix it, but I don't even use the radio right now anyway. But
there's some. So 250. So Risco's saying that 25500 made his quad sound better. Greg, faster update, more input to the FC.
Yeah, I was wondering how does it.
Well, and not only
make it
that.
sound better?
Well, not only that. There are aspects to Crossfire, and like if you run Crossfire in 50 hertz mode, sometimes you'll see it in your gyro.
Is that right?
Makes sense.
And so by getting up, now think about where Betaflight filters are normally set. With 50 hertz or 150 hertz, you're under, in many cases, especially on 50. But even in some cases, if you tune a quad out, because when you ultimately do the last step of tuning a quad is actually opening up your filters as far as you can, right? To get the least latency. So in that, you could end up with above that range. So anything that's below that, you might potentially see in your gyro, and that would affect the sound of your quad. If you're up at 250 or 500, you're way above it. So that is one thing that is
never really
scientifically,
absolutely.
The first quad that I'm going to build is the AOS frame. I don't know if you guys looked into those AOS frames, but they have the AOS 3.5, and I forget the guy's name who created the frame. He's an engineer of some sort. I don't want to misquote what he is, but the frame itself is supposedly built in a way where the way the arm braces are and everything like that, it lowers the resonance in a frame to a frequency that is far away from the frequency of the motor resonance. And being that's the case, that in most cases, you could turn the filters off completely with this quad, with the frame. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And but that's definitely a frame I'm going to build, is the AOS 3.5. It's an awesome frame.
I don't think you should ever turn the filters off completely. But
well, he shows
you can turn a lot of them off.
He even turned off the gyro filter.
I mean, ultimately, there was a point.
Whatever the filters.
Yes, the gyro filters. Ultimately, there was a point where that's feasibly possible, especially like you still are probably going to run RPM filtering
Chris
or
Rosser,
something. Yes, it is Chris Rosser. I was actually drawing a blank on that too, and I mean, I think jury's out a bit overall. I think it's a very brilliant concept. And some people seem to have good luck, and I've seen some other things. But we'll. I would definitely encourage you to check it out. I think it's interesting, and yes, absolutely. If you can basically force the resonance of the frame into a frequency that is above your filters or completely out of the range that the quad is looking at, because effectively a quad is looking at. I mean, again, it depends. Some gyros have some
low frequencies.
Well, quad movement is about 4 hertz or so. It's not very high. But if you could force the resonances out of a range that the quad is worried about, then absolutely you would see a benefit in less filtering requirements.
You see, what Risco just said is actually what I actually had that exact thought too, buddy. Honestly, I was like,
I'm trying to be very
so good. The Betaflight is so good now that what's the difference? You could almost like build a quad out of Lincoln logs and put motors on it and fly it.
The problem is what the reason why I said you really probably shouldn't absolutely turn your filtering completely off is because it's great when everything's perfect. As soon as something goes wrong,
you bend the prop, something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what you can literally, and definitely not D terms, because you're gonna be smoking shit. like mad.
Well,
wanted
that's the
I
way
wanted
he
to do
actually
some,
has a whole series also on his method of tuning.
Mhm.
And once again, I don't want to misquote the guy, but the last thing he pushes up is the D term, and on these frames you could push it up a lot higher without any bounce backs or any weird wobbles and stuff like that, because the resonance of the frame stops the gyro from reacting to the D term.
if
in
the
the same
noise doesn't
manner.
exist
Until you
then
crash.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean
Until
that's the
you-
thing. As soon as you bend a prop or you get something, you get something that is outside of that, then you're gonna have
There
some
he is.
serious problems. What up? Oh, we don't hear.
What's up, bud?
Don't hear you. Oh, there you are. No, that's all good. I do think it's an interesting concept. I think there's a lot of people look at it. I've talked about it on the show before. I would love to build a setup where you basically get, for lack of a better term, you get a transducer and a pickup, and you feed frequency like a speaker, right? Transducer. You feed frequency into a frame. You put a pickup on the other end, and you read what happens, and then you can get an accurate gauge of what the actual frame, what frequencies the frame resonate at, and what are those sympathy resonant frequencies, and then you fucking totally could nail it. Like,
Yep. I'll tell you the
That's
truth.
so rad.
He didn't
That's so
actually
rad.
say it. I'm making an assumption here, but looking at the design of the frame, the arms are thin, but they're 6 millimeters thick, if that makes sense. They're thin, whatchamacall, horizontally, but vertically they're 6
he's tuning
millimeters.
the carbon effectively to push
No,
the
but
resonance
let me
out.
tell you what my theory is, but it's split arm design. He's got obviously one arm going to your motor, but then each arm splits into two. So what I think that's effectively doing is it's taking the resonance and splitting it to two separate arms, and in turn changes the frequency of the resonance. And like I said, I'm just guessing. He's the professional.
It's
He's
not completely.
you know.
I mean, like a guitar builder would know some of this as well. When you're changing, yes, you're tuning the carbon
essentially
to change the frequencies. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, what would be dope with, you get a transducer and a pickup, you could shave carbon and fucking tune the fucking shit the way you want it, for lack of a better term,
Right.
almost as a guitar building analogy. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's dope. I think it's a really interesting concept. I think, again, for me, the jury's still out. I think there's definitely some science behind it, and Rosser's definitely done some good work, and yeah, we'll see.
I'm gonna get it.
have you ever
I'm not
fucked
getting
with-
talked
oh,
out
sorry.
of. Go ahead, bud. I'm sorry. I was just thinking.
Have you ever fucked with prop wash, like offsetting your motors at
Mhm.
all, like the arms on the back of the front? Have you found any difference at all for staggering your motors like that?
I'm talking about the AOS 3.5 V2 version. Sorry, I can't type on my board. I didn't-
He's also done a cine lifter it's interesting. To answer your question, Goonie, I think, yeah, if you can basically clear and create clean air for the other motor, you can definitely see a benefit. I think that a lot of racing frames would start with angled and offset, and and like with almost like what Chris Steele's doing with like the fucking some of his stuff where he's running, props up and props down, motors up and motors down. The fucking, what is it called? The flip, the one that, Chris, you here? John, somebody help me out. The fucking, his smaller, his Cinewoop that has the,
Yeah.
it's not the money shot. It's the fucking,
Yeah, the other one.
I'm drawing a blank.
I don't have that one, so.
But anyways, yeah, when doing things
funny.
like that, by taking, when you're, you've got a pusher and a puller configuration, and you're fucking,
Right.
yeah, aces, yeah, the pushover. Thank you, John. Yes, the pushover. Yes, when you start doing things like that, and angling, like the race frames back in the day, you would have race frames that you would be sitting at 15 degrees on motor tilt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? While you're sitting flat on the ground, your motors are already just a little bit pointing forward. And you would see that on like that one frame I was talking about the other night, the fucking Sparrow Knight, the R220 carbon molded carbon frame. It was like an H. It looked like a hot dog. It was like an H hot dog, but it had. But since the props or the motors were canted, and there it was such a stretched almost lack of a better term, a stretched H design.
Okay.
Really
Yeah, yeah.
stretched out. You have a lot of clean air. The front motors were blowing underneath the back ones.
Cool.
And so it definitely would help. But again, I think prop wash handling is, aside from, creating the best air environment you can have, it's filtering and be able to opening up your filters.
Yeah.
That's being able to get your tune dial to the point and your resonances and all this stuff, and then being able to look at your filters again. Like first, when I started quad, I go safe. I don't want the thing to do some crazy unforetold shit. So I start with the safe filters, and most firmwares come in a safe place. Right. And then the idea is, okay, you start looking at your filter and you try to get it closed, and then you start doing your PID loop and looking at the noise and the resonances and anything you need to adjust to get your loop as clean as you can, get your loop balanced, and then start turning up the gain. Because the more gain you can create, ultimately you're reducing latency. But at the same time, as you're doing it, you have to be mindful and be looking at anytime you turn up gain. No, you're going to maintain ratio generally.
When you move the gain, but the thing is,
hold on.
With that ratio, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Fucking. Once you get a PID loop balance, can I finish a fucking statement?
Can I talk?
Fucking so anytime you turn up gain, you turn up noise, right? And so at that point, you need to be looking. So that's why, as you're gaining up, you need to be looking at what's going on. And sometimes you need to account for that noise. And you need now you've started a spike. Maybe you got a resonant frequency. That doesn't mean now you just start jamming down your filters. That means, maybe I could just drop a notch on that bitch. Real fine little notch, doesn't add much latency. Drop that, it's like a scalpel. Just drop that out of there. Now your PID loop cleans up. Now you can keep pushing it. Now you're going to hit a point, and by using tools like PID Toolbox, you can actually look at your graphs, and it tells you your latency. You will hit a point where giving it more gain doesn't really give you any more benefit. You hit a point of diminishing returns. But if you've maintained your loop super clean, now you can you make an educated guess, and you fucking, you fucking set your gain, like maybe back down your gain just a bit. You hit that point of diminishing returns. Okay, I went this much, and I didn't see anything different. So you just pull it down, and then at that point you look again. You're looking at your filters. Okay, now I can start opening up my filters, and at the same time I'm watching it as I'm at that gain. Is anything starting to show up? You're bringing up your filter, and you get it to a point that you will have a completely different response out of the quad. You'll have your prop wash will be almost non-existent because there's no latency for the stuff to deal with at that point. And so yes, all the mechanics go into it, like AOS carbon and trying to tune out resonances, starting the cleanest you possibly can in the build is a massive benefit. And so and then you couple that with link latency and video latency and all the things combined, and you end up with what you get. You've flown with me plenty. I always have my own method for tuning, and we always arrived at good tunes, you and I. But my method was I tuned by feel. I didn't really pay attention to numbers. I knew from the start, depending on whether I was flying a 5-inch or a micro, the ratio that I should start at. Nowadays, Better Flight is much better, where the stock PIDs are usually pretty good right off the bat. But with me, when it was a micro, I knew that my P and D would be close to each other because it's a low weight quad, and I would have a pretty heavy powertrain in all my micros. As opposed to a 5-inch, it would be 2-to-1 sometimes with the P and D. But what I would do always was I would tune it by feel and feel the motors and just fly it and do some quick maneuvers and see what kind of prop wash I was getting, the wobbles. And once I had it feeling good and I was comfortable with it, then I would go to black box, and then I would track the gyro, and I would see how much latency there was between stick inputs and the gyro, and I would tune the quad to try to get the gyro to read the stick inputs almost identical. And that's when you start to play with the filters. That's the way I always did it. It's just like doing a stingy tune. I've always preached, having a method, like a pure method, like a stingy tune. Yeah, formula. When you do stingy tuning, you can get your P and D balance relatively close. You can get it to feel great. There's no question you can't get it to feel good. But until you get to that next level where you literally go and you're like fucking looking at it and how much gain can I now put into the whole system, and you're watching, the whole thing, and then ultimately be able to look at your noise and do the final step of tweaking filters. Like, that's correct, absolutely, because you ultimately got to that place where you fucking leveraged it out with data.
See, another thing I was going to say, I was thinking about it after the stream last week, actually, because we were speaking about, I always did building dives. Like the video I just posted with the city corp, that was a 2-inch quad, bro. And I'll tell you what, one thing I always played with, which was like shunned upon, was the I-term. Because I-term, when you're flying a little quad in those conditions, the I-term was important to me, because the I-term would delegate how much the wind would play a role in the quad's handling for me. But every time you play with the I-term, you have to in turn mess around with your ratio, your P and your D. At least I did. But I was constantly playing with my I-term when I was flying in those environments,
I mean, I can't stress enough. I mean, if you really want to understand, like, the easiest method, in my opinion, is watch Brian White. Watch PID Toolbox. The guy's fucking, he's the guy that made it.
Genius.
He's fucking, and the methodology is a great one. You can tune a quad in your bedroom, reasonably. Using angle mode, you can tune a quad in your fucking bedroom or your garage, your basement, and then you can run it through PID Toolbox. Because again, stingy tune. If you know how to do a stingy tune, learn how to do a stingy tune. It's fucking amazing. You can get I-term to a point, but again, there's points. Just like you can keep raising I-terms, and in many cases you won't notice anything. But you can also hit a point where now all of a sudden forward flight every so often I got some weird wobble, shit, and so like by using PID Toolbox, you're just taking all the guesswork out, and you can clearly see what the PID loop is doing, and you can account for it. Like you can see your I-terms up, or you can see your fucking P and D's off, or you can see your filters are whacked. I mean, and you can literally watch a couple Brian videos that are about 20 minutes long, and do a basic tune in your fucking bedroom, and then take it out in the field and do a few more passes, and then take it as far as you want, really, right? You can, if you're happy, send it. If you want to fucking finish it out, get there. You can do a stingy tune, like, and fucking get a basic start, and then start black boxing, and finish the balance, and then start working on your gain and your filters. And you'll get there. I love stingy tune. Before I knew how to use black box, that's how I did it. Stingy tune. Just fucking I and D on 0, start with low P, start fucking doing a stingy tune. Bang, 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 get it up. Then start bringing the D's up. Then once I got those balanced, fucking bring that I-term up so it was locked and I was happy. Bye. And that was before I was really getting into using black box for filtering as well. Right. But I think that with, people like Rosser and people like Bardwell and Brian and many others, is like once there's a point you can get a quad to by feel or whatever. And then once you get it in black box, opening it up and fucking UAV tech. But fucking, UAV tech,
he's a genius. You can't take that away from
fucking,
that guy. He's a fantastic tuner.
You can fucking, those cats have sat and charted it all out and demonstrated all this shit, that, as you get things up and you get your filters open, you get the absolute best response out of the fucking frame. And so that's like, yeah, I mean, I used to stingy tune other people's quads, and my friends were like, oh, dude, I'm still flying that tune you put out there for me. And it's like, cool, man, it's awesome.
This actually brings me to a point which goes back to the AOS frame, actually, believe it or not. Because when I was looking at this 3.5 frame, I was like, why 3.5? Why not 3-inch or 2-inch or 5-inch or whatever? Why 3.5? And then he's got a whole video on it where he has a graph and he shows the gyro data with the thrust to weight ratio, with the prop volume in ratio with the quad frame. And believe it or not, 3.5 is actually the most optimal out of all frames. That's what he's explaining. And he shows the graph with a 7-inch, with a 5-inch, with the 3.5, and so on and so forth, in all different classes. And it shows that the optimal performance of noise in a gyro, thrust to weight. I'm going to find this video. I'm going to send it to you. But I found it very interesting. I never had a 3.5-inch build. I mean, for a half an inch on a prop, you never would consider it something that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I mean, I fucking love 3-inch builds. Like
I love
3-inch
3-inch too.
It makes complete sense because the noise of those motors and the noise and the frequencies involved are much, much higher than where they're outside of the range you care about as much. You know what I mean? And I can tell you, so maybe the frequencies and the response of how his carbon is tuned, that's where it puts it, 3.5. I mean, makes sense to me. I mean, it is all frequencies, you know, like it's all about frequencies and understanding that props are spinning in a cycle. Motors are spinning in a cycle. Bearings rotate in a cycle. It's all cyclic and everything generates a noise, a frequency, including the carbon and whatever else. I'm trying to catch up with the chat here too. Bannister, so you're using LRV file, GoPro LRV files? It's fucking hilarious. That is cool. I just transcode. They're proxies. They're basically proxy files that the GoPros are generating that you can load in and use as a proxy in your editor rather than have to do other things. Without having to transcode or create your own proxies. You can have the GoPro cut the proxies for you. Bannister said he's finally got proxy workflow down using LRV files and Resolve. That's awesome.
I always wondered what they were. I always just delete that shit because I never use it.
The only time, one time I've seen, recently actually with the GoPro, I generated a proxy file with GoPro and I got some sensor noise, but my shot was underexposed. And I ended up crashing into sensor noise way faster with a proxy file.
It's time.
Oh boy. He's drinking NyQuil.
What is that?
ZQL now.
Oh, ZQL.
I drug myself with over-the-counter medication.
Good night.
Robo
Samir.
trip.
Good night.
Nice.
No, it takes a while to kick in. It takes like 45 minutes. I actually should have started taking it at 11.
That shit would have me sleeping in 45 minutes, no matter how hard I wanted to stay awake.
Yeah, no, that's what's great though. It's that point where you still want to stay up, but you just can't. I love that feeling. Like,
it gets painful at certain points. That feeling. Oh,
yeah.
What size?
Like existence is pain. I'm like Meeseeks at that point.
Bannister, what size quad were you referring to that had the RPM down to 60 hertz? I definitely would drop RPM down on a bigger quad in that range if needed. Matty Blunts and I tuned his 13-inch, and we got pretty low on RPM, actually. I don't think we quite went down to 60, but that doesn't surprise me, actually.
What size battery was he rocking on that?
That was his 12S rig.
8S, 12S. Holy
No, it was
shit.
two. I don't remember what I don't remember off the top of my head what the mall was, but it was 12S on 13.
Those quads scare me just as much as the helis do too. Not even because of the props. I'm just like, I look at people plug in and I'm like, wow, how much how much of a jolt would it take to electrocute you right now?
2808.
You know?
I'd probably just sting a little.
J75s. That's 7-inch props. Folder is no rendering. Well, if you do it proxy, no rendering, extra spaces, put them in the folder, rename GX and extension.mov proxy. Well, when you render in Resolve, it should link back to the original files and actually do the actual render from the original files.
Moment of silence.
7-inch, 7/8 changes into the 3000 mod. Yeah, I can definitely see it. Fucking 10-inch, 10-inch definitely gets down there. 2808. It's a pretty good size motor. Pretty wide. Yeah, I can see it. I can see you getting down there. I feel 60 might be a hair low, maybe, but I don't know. If you graphed it and that's what it was meant, then maybe. Definitely. Interesting.
Cool.
So what Bannister's talking about, LRV files, it's proxy files. So with the GoPros, especially running labs, you can generate LRV files, and there's various workflows to basically when you load into Resolve, you're basically pointing Resolve with those initially, and that's what you're creating your edit from. And when proxy workflow is done generally speaking, will go back, look at the original files when it actually does the render. But the whole time you're working on a very lightweight proxy file. If you're not using an LRV or other proxy format generated by camera, you can just load the raw media into Resolve or Premiere, and you can generate proxies to do your edit on. And then when you go to render, it should link back. It will automatically link back to the original media and fucking render it out full quality from those. So basically, the GoPros are taking out the transcode step by generating these LRV files, and you literally just point it at that, and you get rocking without having to generate proxies on your own.
Right on.
Which is pretty fucking dope. About that time.
It's about that time, dude. Well,
Damn
speaking
time.
of kids going back to school tomorrow, I got to get the fuck down to get them up in the morning.
I was gonna say, you're in school still?
No, my kids are.
Oh, my alarm just went off. Download, lift, off, whoop.
Everybody, thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna bounce.
See you later.
Good night, Artie. See you.
Good night, buddy.
We're going
Always a
mad
pleasure,
love.
buddy.
Peace.
Talk to you soon,
See you next
brother.
week, buddy.
What else was the news? Oh, so let's see. Oh. 533 has some no brand motors for like $16 a pop. They're 2207 1960s.
Oh, nice.
Success.
Their no brand is I think what they said is they bought a bunch of bells that still use C clips, and they ultimately went to screws, and so
So the bells just fly right off of them.
Power drone, they have some 533, 2207, 2070 kV motors for $23 a piece.
anybody wants some cheap motors, I'll drop this in the chat.
And if you want slightly upgraded, I will also drop in the chat.
I'm in the market for 1506 size for the 3.5 build I'm gonna do, and I've settled on the the T motor something. T motor, I got it written down. T motor makes them though, and those are the motors I'm gonna go for. Let's see what they're called.
What is our thoughts right now between Axis Flying and T Motor? Does anybody have a preference between the two?
I didn't even know that there was.
Well, I
Similar.
think T-Motor has a much larger selection of motors, which makes it a lot more appealing. For different, a lot of different types of pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Axis Flying hits the nail on the head for the motors that they do have for the purpose that they are, aimed at, with like high aggressive fucking open air style flying.
Good night, John. Come back and see us next week. Don't forget, we got Street League Spec. I said it right. In the house next week with Sky FPV and Jay Rice. Get in there.
They
Any
usually
boys
have
Velocidrone at all?
high
Yeah, I
KV
was just
motors.
talking about that.
He was talking about
not
Yeah, I
but
have it.
Velocidrone, the whoop class.
Oh,
I've been
nice.
running it for 4 or 5 hours a day, bro, just to get used to the controller. But controller is like a third appendage now to me. I love it.
That's rad, man.
Just because I'm using it so much, you get used to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Be right back.
I had a lot of issues with it at first, but like anything else, you get used to it.
Yep.
These buttons are very sensitive to press, so if I was to go to DJI route, I was definitely in danger of, like, in a panic, to flip the mode switch or hit the record switch and stuff like that. But the way I hold it now, my fingers are constantly away from the actual pressure points.
Yeah.
And I just grab it like that now, because I probably put about 40, 50 hours on this controller so far on the simulators.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, I'll tell you, I love that Velocidrone whoop. The
Yeah.
whoop, yeah, it's awesome, dude. There's so many tracks, and it's just so accurate as far as the physics go.
Yeah.
I was saying
Love
it
that.
before. I started talking about it, how if you switch between props, like they have 3 different props for each drone, whether it's the
Yeah.
Acro B or whatever, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The quad handles as if you were switching from a 4-blade to a 3-blade to a 2-blade.
Love it.
And it has the same kind of feel. Like, wow, how about that? It just throws a little more, and it's like you feel like there's less feed forward, if that makes sense. But
Totally.
I always flew whoops in acro mode.
Yep.
So the first like 2-3 hours on it, trying to hit the tracks. I couldn't even get around a single lap on any track. You know what I mean? But after a few hours, I started to play with the rates, and then I realized that my whatchamacall, Jesus Christ, my fucking brain doesn't work. It's because of the NyQuil. To adjust, not the PIDs, the whatchamacall bends in the
Expo.
The expo. Thank you, Jesus Christ, my brain. My expo was too high, so I started to level out my expo to make it not linear, but just slight, like 0.15 expo and better flight settings, and it made a tremendous difference, bro. Because then the stick inputs are much less, and once I started to get comfortable, bro, I'm flying around a track, bro. I'm like 20 in a couple of tracks, 20 out of how many hundreds of people,
Nice.
Yeah, moving with it. So I'm excited to actually fly in real life with trying out new expo settings.
Cool.
So yeah,
that's
pretty much it.
I gotta fucking try some new rates in liftoff again, because going on that big ass track in liftoff, everything felt mushy when I got it there the other day. I was like, I was only running like, I don't know, 20 or 30% expo or something, but it just felt I think it was like 20. It wasn't even that much. Maybe 30.
Not reactive enough, or
it just felt mushier than I wanted it to. I was thinking about fucking going a little more linear, because it just, especially on that particular map, I was telling Greg, I think it's a fucking great map to do like proxy shit, and especially I think honestly, like a style like Greg's would be fucking awesome. It was like a perfect environment for that. It's just fucking like, if you're really into like that steezy spangy fucking and in low proxy, you could fucking, there's so much there in that new. Have you seen that? You play Liftoff, Cooney?
I have. I'm mostly on Velocidrone just because I like how realistic Velocidrone feels for me. And there's a few of the maps, like I practice freestyle in there, to be honest with you, mostly. I'd probably race more if I had people to race with, but I just really like the open city where you can fly around, and I like squaring off so I can practice tricks, like having the buildings be perfectly, sided, dial them in better. But I'll be honest with you, most of my flying that I'm recording is definitely not that, but I do enjoy flying freestyle though.
I like Bando City and Liftoff.
In Liftoff?
Yeah, the Bando City and Liftoff is good too.
Yeah. Sick.
I've always
usually just fly the green, and then
the green's good. I love it. I don't know. Hanover is still my favorite map. I think Hanover is my favorite. There's just so many interesting things to fuck with. The green is probably a very close second. Racing, I love the green. I like the green the most for racing maps, specifically. The new map is like, it's like Trip FPV. It's just ginormous. The new map is 3 times larger than all the maps combined.
Yeah,
it's giant, and you have like the lava flows, and there's like crazy, like you can get out the points, and there'll be like little radio towers going. It's just like crazy shit, like little details all over the place. I thought I did see that We Bleed FPV had a contest going.
I used to fly sims religiously. I haven't touched one in a while.
I hope to see maybe some of the slipstream stuff spill into some of the other maps, to be honest. I'd like to see some crazy shit on this new map. That was the only downside to the map. Is so big, it almost feels a bit sparse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's too big.
I want to send you a simulator clip.
Usually just hop on a sim if I have an idea of something.
To get it
works out.
To get the new lift,
try it out and then just take it to the field.
Yeah, I mean that's fucking
like a trick wise or just anything.
Trick wise for the most part.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, like I'll just think of a trick nowadays and be like, I'm gonna try that next time I go fly. Like I haven't had the urge for some reason to fly a simulator in some time. I don't know why.
If you turn off, I was talking about it earlier, if you have liftoff and you're in the experimental branch and you do not see the map, make sure you turn off your DLCs for Slipstream and probably even Night Fever. I don't know if you can have them both on at the same time anyway, but if you have Slipstream or I know specifically you won't see the new map because there's no DLC for that map. So that's probably why you don't see it. Because that happened to me. I got the experimental branch. And again, if you want to try the new map, you just go to Steam, right click on Liftoff, go to properties. There's a section that will say betas. And it'll say, when you get there, it will say none. Click on that, go to experimental branch, hit OK, wait 5 minutes. It will load the experimental branch in, fire it up, do your thing, and make sure all your DLC is turned off, and you'll be able to get to the new map.
Cool.
And then when it's released, you just go back, and instead of downloading the new release, you'll just switch back to the new release version, and it will do it automatically. It's pretty easy to switch in and out of stuff like that on Steam, actually.
That's cool.
I posted a link to the
I need to get in a sim again.
sim.
I just fucking like, I love V-Drone. I always say it, like, I love V-Drone. I don't have anything. I just got stuck in Liftoff.
Like,
I like Trip.
Like, the only ones I
gotta-
don't like
sorry.
are like the FPV Freerider. That one's
Yeah,
trash.
I didn't like that either. I'll tell you what, you got to try the Whoop on Velocidrone, Chad. I'm telling you, try it. Just download it. I think it's like $4.99 for the package. On you got to go on Velocidrone's website. It's not on Steam.
I need to get in a sim and practice my
I
yacht tracking.
haven't launched Velocidrone in
Slacking on
such
that
a long
now.
time. Plus, the other side of it, I have so many friends on Steam that also fly, and V-Drone's not on Steam. So it's just like the whole Steam thing just makes it easy. I just like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why. I think Velocidrone would have a bigger online community if it was
Right.
if it was on Steam.
and there's a lot of things that, you know, there's been a lot of maps added to Velocidrone. That was the other thing at the time, like when I had both of them, there was just way more content available from the community on Liftoff, you know, and like Bomba, man, the Bomba maps Bomba's Liftoff maps are the fucking shit. They're just some of the best tracks, crazy things out there. Like, some of the best racing tracks I've flown. You know, when you want to get into racing.
What's your angle? What's your camera angle when you're
When I race, well, in Liftoff, I've hit 80.
80?
This guy.
Yeah. The problem I have though is I ultimately get to a place where it takes me a while, and I have a tendency to get going too fast before I'm quite ready. Like I don't quite have the muscle memory, and so I'll tend to make a lot more mistakes and crash out a lot more. But when I get going, it's not uncommon for me to start off around 60 on Liftoff.
I feel like
or
there's
so.
from my experience, it feels like there's a diminished return after 60.
Yeah, the farthest I've gone is 65, and I backed off.
I can tell you that the dudes at the top of the leaderboard are running probably 70 or 80 on average.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense to be steeper.
I have
for
a
sure.
very good friend who's one of those guys that he was like, I run 80 nonstop, and he actually changes his field of view kind of wide, and then he runs super steep. And dude, it's insane. He
Wonder
just
what pilots like
never
Min-Chan run.
he never fucking has to let off
Right.
the throttle practically, except when he's cornering. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
and I start getting there. I haven't honestly sat down and spent enough consecutive time in a long time to really get there, so to speak. But I've done some of I'm part of the Liftoff, the league, and I've done some of the league events, and I've done well in
Cool.
them. You know,
Nice.
Cool.
I tend to just be my own worst enemy, though. Like I said, I want to go faster, and I just don't. If I'm not doing it like a lot and you can't, it's not just like in one day. I'm talking about like a lot in general. Like it's hard to keep that speed up. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, you gotta
insanity.
stay in practice. It's like
Bro-
playing golf.
bro,
Like,
and
you
you gotta-
stop for a couple of days, you lose it.
Turn off the
Like 4
fucking
seconds
motion
slower.
blur, dude, because it's just otherwise it's just like, yo, what am I looking at right now? This is insane. Like
Whenever
it's-
I grind racing in the sim,
Yeah.
my freestyle fucking improves significantly the next time I go fly. I don't just
Yeah.
makes it just so much more flowy, and just you can control where you like when you're going through a gap. It's almost like you can slow down time. You can
Yeah.
think of like 50 different things to do in that span of time where you'd be normally freaking out that you're close to the ground.
Right.
Even on the, I've always been, to be fair, I've always been more high tilt because I started drones as a racer.
Nice.
I've got into, I started as a racer. So I started, 35, 40, 45 pretty early on. So I've always been up there, and it takes me time to get used to flying low tilt when I want to just chill out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The big thing for me was, when I started lower tilt, like 2025, and I'm trying to go fucking fast, and I didn't have good throttle control yet, I would balloon the fuck out of the corners. So when you're going a corner and you're trying to fucking power through it, but you're at such a low tilt, you're gonna gain altitude. So
That's the beauty of the eject.
by fucking, moving up tilt, you're going to stay on your a bit higher on your throttle a bit more consistently. But when you do have to really power around a fucking tree, like it's literally all roll, and you're fucking just you've got. I mean,
with low tilt, it's all momentum conservation. Doing that
as soon as you
eject
let off the throttle,
and
you shoot right out of the corner.
like most of the time, I'm just letting my momentum carry myself through an obstacle. I'm not powering through it.
You know what it is though? Like,
those guys are so cracked though, Bo.
They're unbelievable.
They're
bro.
so cracked.
You know what it is? It's so kamikaze when you fly that style, because if your line is off just by a bit, you're dedicated to it now. Like, you cannot pull out of it because you have to hold throttle in order to keep your momentum to go through a turn. So you have no choice but to just send it. I mean, it's a simulator, so it really doesn't matter. But it's a difference of crashing or making a good lap.
I mean, when you can make, dude, when you can shave a couple quarters of a second off a fucking turn, every turn consistently, that's how you win. You know what I mean? The other approach that I used to use a lot of too, depending, like if you do like a hairpin where you're like doing a 180 basically, like I'll just punch and just totally drop throttle, rotate, and then fully blip. And just it's literally just 180 roll and hammer it, and you just literally stop and go. Like, it's crazy. And that's how I shoot for my hairpin, like a hairpin. Like, I just fucking punch and start fucking turning. Like, I punch, drop throttle, and start looking at the object that I'm trying to get around, basically. You know what I mean? And like Greg's saying, I'm yeeting it and then fucking turning and then yeeting it back, and if you're to what you're saying, like that's the other thing about liftoff, I like to build stupid builds, like 6S 2700 kV. I want it to go as fast as, like, crazy stupid shit, and like, and so yeah, when you make a mistake, you're fucked, because like you're committed. It's a lot more committal. Like,
that's actually how I built this drone in real life. Well, it's not 2700 kV, but it's these T-motor. These are Emacs, actually. Now I'm looking at them, but they're 2000.
They were T-motor before you looked at them, though.
Yeah, whatever they are, they're 2000 kV on 6S. So that's high. You know what I mean?
Greg's up there, I think.
Kills your batteries a little bit, but it gives you a lot of power.
Yeah, I'm all about high kV motors on 5-inch quads.
5-inch, yeah.
57 degrees is a lot of tilt, man. I mean, when you're hitting 50, 55, you're definitely up there. It's a good amount of fucking tilt. Yeah, it's weird. Like, when I tried to do like linear rates at high of up tilt, it was fucking weird as fuck. It was super weird, man.
I bet.
You're
so
fucked.
What are you usually flying around? Your main flyer, what are you usually flying around with, boys? What's your tilt? What's your camera angle?
Oh, I was always like 20, 25. I didn't have a drastic camera angle.
Yeah.
I started flying at like 45 degrees, and then
45. Wow.
Lowered.
Yeah.
That's racer
I thought, like,
angle. Yeah.
No, I wanted to go fast.
Yeah.
And then now I fly like 15 degrees.
15.
Yeah.
You're down to 15.
Oh,
Yeah.
you could do a lot more, like, juicy
Flat.
clicks and stuff like
You
that.
can do more
You have the flatter camera.
Flat, yeah. The fucking my freestyle rigs are usually about 30, 35, sometimes down to 25. I haven't gone quite that low, and maybe I should try it like a bit more and go a bit more flatter. 3D, I'd go almost 100% flat. like almost
3D
no
you
angle.
would?
Yeah, if I was doing
Oh,
3D,
yeah,
I would
that makes
do
sense,
because you got to be able to see both
Right.
directions.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a different. Yeah, that's each scenario. I'm a freak in that regard because like it takes me a while to get warmed up to an angle and a rate profile. I change like it's not that I change my rates and shit all the time. Every quad I build has 3 rate profiles, and then I adjust camera angle for what I want to do or what the intention of the quad is. I do have some like fixed 50. Like I have a 10-inch that's fixed 50. It's and that's it. I don't fucking wear, you know, and fucking
Was that the one I was trying to chase around?
that's
a
the
building? I
box.
couldn't keep-
It was the box
yeah,
one.
I
Yeah,
couldn't keep up with that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna follow him. All right, this is looking fucking gone. You know.
But you know, I like I don't like to deviate a lot. Like I have like my freestyle angle and my freestyle rates. I've got like a mid rate, and then I have my racing angles and my racing rates, and they're synergistic. You know what I mean? I run super high angle, but I run super low rates
Right.
when I'm
I'll
racing.
tell you one thing that I realized. This is the most I've ever used the sim since I first started flying, and there's one thing I realized. I was actually just talking about it. I was saying how I lowered my expo, and the reason why I lowered my expo is because I'm racing mostly the whoops on the simulator. So obviously the tracks are a lot smaller and the inputs are much faster. So it's kind of a paradox because I thought like, oh, higher expo makes the sticks a little more soft. So it's the opposite because you're moving so fast. By me lowering my expo, it's a shorter throw on the sticks. And I didn't know that until I started using the simulator. That's the point. Is that I thought it would be opposite. I always was set on my expo at like 30. You know what I mean? Like I always got my expo at 30, and I thought I was muscle memory and whatnot. But now I realize the faster you go, the less expo you want. At least for me, the way I fly, because it's less of a movement in order to do the maneuver that you want. I learned
With
how to be
race,
sensitive with the
Yeah,
sticks.
a lot of
finesse.
racers' rates are going to be more towards the linear side.
I used to not run any expo for years. Even when I did freestyle, my racing rates never had expo. Yeah, I primarily just controlled everything off super rate.
I was
I
on a
didn't even know
linear
that,
rate kick
yeah.
for a little while. I've kind of moved away from that. Not as I still fly linear-ish rates, but now I just do mostly RC rate, tiny bit of super rate, and then like 10% expo.
Yeah, that's almost linear.
I've always been like, I've always kind of approached like I like to leave my RC rate pretty much default and then use the curves for the most part. Of course, the actual stick, how tall the sticks, that's a factor. Like if I wanted to make, you know, that's a factor where I would adjust my RC rate is if I'm tweaking the height of my sticks more. And I always but otherwise I used to just leave it default and just do everything off super. And then when I did start using expo more, I started doing that. But now with absolute rates actual rates.
Yeah.
Absolute power with actual rates and things like that. And then like when Emu had the fucking stick pids, the fucking oh god damn it, I'm spacing on the word. Risco, you still there? Fucking we call them the stick pids. The fucking why am I
Dynamic rates.
Yeah, the dynamic rates in Emu. Fucking that changed a lot for me too. And what I was
messed
doing.
around with those.
It's super cool, like for like especially like I really love them on like my Cinewhoops and shit, because you know you just have a lot of control on how you can smooth out the center, how you make the center stick feel versus the dual axis steering that's fucking dynamic. Thank you, Risco. Yes, dynamic rates. Fucking dual axis steering was the whoop thing that Patrick from Project Mockingbird came up with. Mockingbird, starting to sound like I'm fucking from Boston.
Mockingbird.
Fucking
Mockingbird.
I resemble that the remark.
Fucking had dual axis steering. That's a really interesting thing too. That's playing with the motor mixing and shit. Dual axis steering. That's a Mockingbird thing.
I just switched like a couple months ago from thumbing to pinching, and oh my god, I should have started at pinching so much.
Are you
better.
are you
difference,
truly
yeah.
pinching, or are you just a hybrid?
No, I'm pinching now. Yeah,
You're truly
full pinch, yeah.
pinching?
What's the difference
Yeah.
between pinching and hybrid?
The only thing hybrids do really is like for shot, like that's why Steel considers himself, well, he is a hybrid.
I'm a
But
hybrid.
it's those quick snappy maneuvers you let go and you use your thumb to snap, like when you're doing snappy rolls and snappy flips and stuff like that. You take the precision out of it and you snap with your thumb. That's the
I
only
think
difference.
I think true
Spring
hybrid
tension is
style
absolutely
is-
a thing.
It's
Absolutely.
people like my buddy RZFPV who pinches with his left hand and thumbs with his right hand.
Everybody's different, bro.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
I used to play
Vanover
ho-
does that too.
I used
So-
to play hockey with a kid that used to hold the stick like this, and he was one of the best hockey players I've ever seen in my life.
switch.
It's,
Yeah, I run high spring tension actually. And actually sometimes I think I need to lower it back down just a touch. But I like a fresh PlayStation controller. You ever you bring a
Yeah.
PlayStation out, get that controller out, the springs are nice and tight and the
Brand
sticks are
new.
that's what I like in terms of spring tension. Like think fresh PS controller. That was what I
before you-
like. Before you
before
fucked
you
it all
throw it at
up
the
and it was
wall
like
and
yeah,
at the
and it was all
Call of Duty
like
session.
loose and janky. Like some people really do amazing with really loose spring tension, lowered spring
I
tension,
had
and
a-
it can be very smooth.
I had a traumatic
but-
experience with spring tension once, and since then, any new radio I get, I'm just like, I'm gonna just like the defaults.
I fuck it, dude. I crank. I've broken springs. I like serious. For like my Tyrannus, it was so tight. Like, and I think the springs in my Nirvana are just a touch tight, but which makes it challenging because if your center stick control isn't good. So for me, the reason why I hybrid is because I was a PlayStation kid. I'm effectively a thumber, but with hybrid, I'm just touching the front of the sticks, and I'm still thumbing, for lack of a better term. But I'm using my fingers as a natural dampener and a limiter, and it just gives me a sense and to help. I'm also working that spring return if I'm going. You know what I mean? I'm using my finger to help cushion and effectively fill that out. But I'm primarily thumbing. You know,
see this?
just
You see
rest.
these gimbal sticks here?
Pinching
These are
pinching is tuned in Tokyo, bro. Like this is
I
pinching.
noticed that I have
This is
better
the hybrid.
yaw authority when I try to
Thumb.
hybrid or pinch.
See these gimbal sticks? These are the TBS Honey sticks. They're just domes on top.
Yeah,
But
that's
it
what I'm
kind
using on my
of
radio right now.
forces you to keep your thumbs on top because it's awkward because they're so wide. But I've been flying these for years. That's the only
Actually,
sticks
why I
use.
switched to those recently,
Yeah.
I've been using the same stick ends for years until recently.
You switched to these?
Yeah, for some reason when I'm flying in the car, my hand or my radio, I tend to start tilting my
Lifting it
radio
up.
up towards me for some reason. I don't do this when I'm standing up and flying, only when I'm sitting in the car. So if I put the honey sticks on there, I still have more control on my thumbs, even if I'm starting to tilt my hands back. So that's the whole reason I'm using those sticks right now is because it's winter. I'm flying for my car a lot, and I have this weird habit of doing that. And it's really starting to annoy me.
The other thing about being a hybrid is especially when I was racing, using my fingers to kind of have a gauge where my throttle really was, creating a limit. Like if I got to a place on the track, I would kind of just naturally just leave my finger there, and then when I drop throttle and I come back, I know I'm right back where.
Yeah, use it as a stop. Yeah.
Using it as a stop. The other thing is too is for my racing rates, I run lower pitch than roll because I'm turning mostly with roll. And so when I am turning, I want to affect pitch less or be less likely to affect pitch. And I don't need as much pitch as a general rule. So I don't need that much rate. It's not a lot. It's just slightly lower. But basically when I am doing a lot of roll, I'm, like I said, less likely to really fuck up on pitch.
I used to do that a lot with even with freestyling. I used to run a lower yaw than I did roller pitch, because when you're doing when you're trying to stay center and stuff, any throttle movement you do can inadvertently push
And
yaw
yeah.
in either way, and it can create an oscillation. And you think, oh, is my tune fucked up? Like, no, it's just your thumb's fucked up. Stop it.
And that's, again, by resting my finger on there, that's what I found. Like, I was less likely to fuck up yaw when I'm doing a lot of throttle work. I had to very consciously need to yaw. You know what I mean? And that's what with pinching, I think you can get it's very similar. I just don't. Again, being a PlayStation kid, I like a thumb, but with controller sticks, I like using these, and that's why I got it as a hybrid.
I'm sure you guys could do this too, but I'll tell you the truth. I could watch a flight video, and I could tell you instantly whether they're a pincher or a thumber. Not because one is better than the other. It's just that the style of flying is always more snappy with a thumb pilot. You can just see it in the rolls and in the flips. You could just see the momentum of the quad movement. I could say, oh, that kid's a thumber. You could tell right away, you know?
I think that's why hybrid is the good, because you said you are a thumber. And so my rates for freestyle, we were talking earlier, even though I still run pretty high angle, I've always been really high rate on my freestyle. And because I like to snap and fucking bang it really hard, you know?
Me too. I'm like 1100 degrees, 1050.
I usually hover around G. But I'm trying to reel it in a little bit. But coming back to what I was saying,
what's up, Darts?
I have 3 rates. So I always ran like in the 300s, high 2s, 300, low 3s, somewhere in that range for racing. And then I had something that was honestly 600-700-ish. And then I had 1,000. And so a lot of times when I would come into a racing track specifically, I would start off in my mid profile and just kind of fly around and figure shit out. And then when and then as I got faster, I lowered my rates down and would use the low rates because I would be going so fucking fast at that point. You know, so I started higher because when you have higher rates, you can recover quick. But in many cases, you can recover much easier. But when you get going super fast,
I think the reason that is, and I'll tell you why. I'm switching now. When I start flying, when I finally build a real life drone, I'm going to switch to lower expo.
Right.
But I'm saying the reason why that is, where you have more control with the lower rates, is because of the expo, where when you hit the end of that point,
I don't use
you always
expo.
get that sharp. Well, I'm saying, you don't use expo.
I don't use expo when I'm racing.
For me, it's always been in any situation, freestyle or racing, and when you're in trouble, you tend to panic, even if it's not a full-blown panic. You panic where you extend more than you should because you're like, oh, shit, and you start to panic. But when you hit that edge, when you have the high degree, you overcompensate, and that's when you crash. That's why I think when you have no expo, you tend to do that a little less. At least I do in a simulator because it doesn't take much stick movement to pull out of any position, really.
Well, that's my whole logic too for why I don't fly an exorbitant amount of expo in my system is because, like you said, you can fucking control. You feel just more connected to your quad the less expo you have.
So, yeah,
you definitely do, and oh shit moments definitely can be recovered. But I think that comes from experience too, because too twitchy of a stick for a beginner would send the quad in another direction that you got to correct from, and then it just spirals into the ground.
It's overcompensation.
My expo or dynamic, even dynamic rates to some degree would change based on my base rates. So if I was turning up my rates to 1,000, I would be using more expo than I would be at my mid rates, and then at my racing rates, which are super low, I had no expo. So my expo basically goes up as my actual rates increase. But in some situations, I feel like I could even still use a little bit less expo up top. But that was primary reason is because when you're running super high rates, your center stick can get twitchy, right? So the nice thing about dynamic rates and EMU and actual rates and other things is you can change your center stick behavior now. And with the old way was just add more expo to calm down your center stick when you had really high rates. But with my Cinewhoops, I run low rates and I still use expo because I'm not doing snap rolls, and I want my center stick nice and smooth. And I'd use a lot of center weighting in emu flight on dynamic rates. I'd make the center stick nice and just smooth.
Jello.
Yeah.
So what would you do now if you're twitchy? Like if you're a new guy and you're like, we're just getting started, what would you suggest for people out there to if they were like, you know?
My suggestion.
Expo.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
Expo.
I was gonna say lower your degree. A lot of kids are starting off. They're watching steel videos and like, okay, I'm gonna set it at 1200. No,
Exactly.
so you start at 400 and learn. You know, and then you want to move a little faster. Once you can fly comfortably at 400,
I think
then you go to 500.
I'd say 30% expo at around 600 degrees per second is perfect for anybody just getting into the hobby.
I think that's good. I was going to start by saying it depends on the firmware. First of all, if you're running Betaflight or you're running Emu or whatever, I think that's part of it. You know, I would definitely be looking at like actual rates and things of that nature. If you're on Emu flight, I'd definitely be looking at dynamic rates. But
are you on Emu for your main flyer?
I'm pretty much Emu on everything. Yeah.
On everything, eh? Cool.
And yeah, and I mean, if I probably will be for the foreseeable future because I'm primarily fly Helio. But to what Greg was saying, I was just gonna say that's why Betaflight stock rates are right around 600-700, and you know what I mean. Like it's not a bad
stock
place
rates
to stay.
Are all right.
And for a new person, like if you are still twitchy on stock rates, I would be looking probably to start like, because you are already around 600 or so. I would add a bit of expo, and then I'd start exploring. You know, like I said, definitely take a look at actual rates and things of that nature. There's depending on what you're using.
The biggest thing is I see
stayed at stock rates. Like Westside still rides stock rates.
I think a big thing also is you got to consider what build they're flying too. I mean, you know, there's a lot of beginners that are starting with whoops because
if you're on a whoop,
rates do definitely affect
the rates
smaller
100%. It's a totally different thrust vector, and the whoops tend to be on, on a string on turns because the thrust vector just propels it in whichever direction you're pitching at. It's just the way it is. So if you're flying a whoop, you don't have that gummy feel on turns, and the rates would change drastically. I would use more expo on a whoop if I was beginner than I would on a 5-inch. You know,
right.
If you're, I think it depends if you're flying a whoop acro or stabilized. Because if you're flying a stabilized mode, you're already getting you're getting suspension, for lack of a better term.
That's a whole different animal, though. I mean, when I think of beginner pilot. When I think beginner pilot, I'm talking about a pilot that is looking to switch to acro mode and learning how to fly FPV.
I think that most whoopers are running fucking stabilized. I think the acro guys they're becoming much more common, but at the end of the day, I think the mainstay guys are still flying stabilized. You know, there's a lot of guys.
Really?
The biggest thing I would say
on
for
whoops,
anybody,
yeah.
And this is coming for like a 5-inch like standpoint. If you're getting into FPV, rates are probably going to be one of the most personal things that you can set up on your quad, besides PIDs and filters and just general tuning in general, because like that's something that you can carry from quad to quad.
Right.
You can have somebody give you rates, and then it's just going to feel like shit to you, like no matter what. The biggest thing I would tell somebody new is start with low rates and experiment with different rates, and like just experiment them, but keep your endpoint low degrees. Just keep figuring out what rates do, figure out what your quad's going to do if you affect this number, and if you affect this number, do it in a simulator if you have to. That was like, I think the biggest aha moment was like, holy shit, I can affect this quad to fly a whole different way
depending on your rates,
changing these numbers.
I think it's important too that if you're using super rate, you're actually adding some expo. You're adding a curve. You're adding some expo period. So say I'm not totally using expo, isn't 100% accurate, but I'm not using additional expo. You know, like on my racing low profiles. But to be honest, like, and I don't know, 8-Bit was talking about. I don't know what the whoopers in the chat are flying as far as acro or angle or whatever, but like, yeah, man, in the whoop racing, so we do crazy fucking whoop races in New York all the time, and most people are flying stabilized. And with
those races were also with gates with 180 turns and stuff like that. When you I think that wide open throttle, like in the simulators, I think you can't even compare the lap times. If for an experienced pilot, I'm saying, I'm not talking about beginners. For an experienced pilot, if you go into a simulator and you fly the best of your capability on stabilized around a track, and then you fly the best of your ability with an acro quad, you're gonna get a much better lap time with an acro quad.
Most acro guys crash out.
Most of them do. I'm saying the people that are experienced pilots.
Dude, guys, look at AK. Look at some of those really experienced pilots out there. A lot of those guys. I mean, yes, I've seen them. Like I've seen some of the videos where they are flying acro, but a lot of times on a small track, dude, angle. Like they're running like Project Mockingbird.
I think it would depend on how many elevation changes.
Project Mockingbird.
Which elevation it is.
Project Mockingbird. Leadfinger's saying a lot of the Whoop guys there is all acro.
Nothing worse than trying to go down with a level quad.
I mean, I just was like watching some of those guys. I've been watching a lot of guys switch to acro. Don't get me wrong, but like fucking Project Mockingbird used to come. There wasn't acro mode. It was disabled.
There was all the crazy tuning with.
And acro was actually disabled at one point. It was like fixed only for angle mode racing.
Yeah, but it also incorporated the roll and the pitch. It kind of hybrided them together. I remember they did something.
Well, that's what dual axis steering is. That's what we were talking about earlier. Artec brought it up. 8-bit FPV and fucking. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like with stabilizing crash recovery and the way that like Kevin did with Emu Flight. You know, when a whoop, he had it set up so that when if you know a whoop will stick to the wall. Right.
Yeah, I hate that. It's
well,
like a vacuum.
In Emu, he created a situation where you could have high and low fucking stabilized gains. So basically, when the gyro detects itself going into overflow because it's stuck to a wall, it would kick down and unstick itself and then take back off. And
That's
cool. The crash recovery is insane. You can't get that in acro.
Yeah, it's like ABS. That's like ABS brakes on a car. Like. That's awesome.
Dual axis steering is the DAS. There's a lot of people that still fly stabilized. There's a lot of people that are switching to acro, but
it's a whole different monster.
But whoop racing is a whole different monster. Absolutely.
You see what Leadfingers just said, and I think the reason for that is he said that A-main whoop guys are mostly now flying acro. I think the reason for that is that the whole geometry and dynamics of the newer whoops, like the Mobula 6, like the Acro B. Much easier to fly in acro than the first iteration of whoops. I think, especially with the firmware, that's available now. I think that whoops handle acro mode much better now than they did 3 years ago.
Most of them are brushless, so that's a big part of it. But again, like in terms of what a whoop race is, in the context of a whoop race, and in the context of like the speeds and the whole nine, like acro is definitely less forgiving in that small spot, and with things like crash recovery and dual axis and all of that, and then you have like the NFE racer mode where you would put just pitch in acro. So basically you just set your tilt and fucking go.
Right, and the roll is still stabilized.
And so there's a lot of very whoop specific things and hybridizations of angle and acro that a lot of guys, that's what a lot of guys were using, and they weren't really using full true acro. With NFE racer mode, you could easily deal with some crazy multi-height track. You know what I mean? But you're keeping stabilization on roll and yaw and cool. Everything. So there's definitely a lot of interesting things out there that have.
It's going to be cool next week when we have an actual pro racer in here to pick his brain. You know what I mean? I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the DRL. What is DRL is on 7-inch right now? I know that
dude, those quads weigh like retarded amount of weight. Like I'm sure you guys played DRL sim. Did you ever try to fly those 7-inch quads from going from like
I've flown the racers
5-inch just ripping around, dude?
That.
It's like trying to drive a bus. Like you know what I mean? It's what it's like.
The Street League spec, is 5S 7-inch. DRL was doing 5S 7-inch as well for ages. I flew the racers in fucking in Queens, bro. Because Annie Hahnemann and
awesome.
I know a bunch of the guys that work at DRL in tech ops that they build the quads and fucking tune the quads and do all the things for the quads to fucking for the guys racing.
Do you remember what motors they were running?
No, not off the top of my head. I don't.
They're probably 26.
They use fucking I can tell you the DRL goes with what they know. And there was a point where like I remember one point where they were still on F3s when like F7s were like becoming popular, and they were still running like old FCs because they fucking had them dialed and they had shit tons of them, and they just because I've talked to them like back when Helio was alive, we were talking about seeing about get DRL fucking rocking some Helios. 5S 7-inch 1280 AEW.
Yeah, see,
I may be an undercover street league guy. Thanks, Lead Fingers.
1280. Yeah, that's heavy. But I'll tell you, you see what you just said. It's always good to innovate.
Oh, there you go.
There it
There's
is.
your question. DRL motors are brother hobby 2510 1250.
25.
Don't buy
So
them.
I said 26, 25. Well, anyhow, they regardless of whether they innovate the technology and make it faster, more agile, the same thing is it's one thing stays the same is every pilot's on the same level playing field like NASCAR. They all have the same drone. So, you know, regardless of the drone's capability, they all have to overcome the same obstacles.
I'm surprised you never went over to DRL when you were living in the city. It was right there in Manhattan.
I thought about it.
Like I fucking Mike Flyer was up. He's up by Gates. We used to fly at Gates all the time, and then Andy and a bunch of the other cats. We'd fly out fucking Corona or fucking oh god damn it, what's the park that's way out there in Queens? I can't remember the name of it right now, but yeah, there's a couple parks in Queens that a bunch of the other DR guys we all meet up and fly out there. And they used to bring the fucking they'd bring one out and we'd be fucking with it and it would be cool. These things are just pigs though. Like
that's what I'm saying. They're like flying a bus.
Bricks.
It's like flying a bus.
Well, that's what like
at least on a simulator it is.
If you guys, and we're gonna get into it next week when Jay Rice and Sky are here. But like, if you check out the Street League website, I find it really interesting because like they give you it's a spec that you get to work within, right? And then they actually give you like a Betaflight tune. It's a 5S build Betaflight tune that you can download, and there's motor output limit requirements, but you get to pick different motors. They have a list of approved motors. You get to pick the motors, and then but there's even motor output limiting specs and everything. It's well put together in terms, but they give you a lot of options, as far as like what you can put together, but like it's pretty dope. But we're gonna get into that more.
There's an actual sheet where you could choose your own specific components for each drone, regardless.
I thought
they all had exactly the same.
And DRL has the exact same hardware. Spec racing is where they give you a set of specs and certain frames, classes of frames. Like multi GP has classes, right? And so they give you specs to be within a class.
Yeah, it's the same thing with
Street League spec is a bit more. I don't want to say too much this week, but Street League spec is 7-inch. And as Leadfingers put, 5S 7-inch 1280 AW, but they give you some options. They give you prop choices. There's only like I think 2 prop choices. It's Gemfan or HQ. There's like fucking 20 motor choices maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't remember quite. We'll look. Like I said, we'll get into it a little bit more next week. There's Betaflight setups. Like they give you. It's all like it's a controlled set of variables to work within, and so it's kind of like. Yeah, it's interesting.
That sounds
It's
cool.
the same thing with on road, bro. Like, look at this here. This is not to show off the plaque, but 13.5, you know what I mean? It has to be a specific weight. You can only use raw approved motors, raw approved batteries, raw approved ESCs, the whole 9 yards. So it's a level playing field. You know what I mean? But I guess it would be the same thing.
I think they even have pack charging specs. Like they give you everything. Like it's
Really?
pretty. Yeah.
Interesting.
Lots of hardware option keeps everything in stock for us. Yeah, absolutely. But it's cool because, like, you want to get into the Street League racing, you build within this spec, and you're good. And It's because, you know, like a lot of stuff too. It's like within multi GP, you know, you could have all sorts of shit within 5 inch. You know what I mean? But like, you know, there are certain specs that you have to adhere to. But
Definitely not Bannister. It's probably exactly.
I don't.
They probably let you. They probably disqualify you if you're over.
We'll get it.
certain,
Like I say, we'll get it. We'll
voltage.
get into it a little deeper next week when they're here, and we'll talk about it specifically. But yeah, there's your answer. 5.25, and we do check. Yeah, I'm super excited.
So, Let, is there a disqualification if you come in over like 4.27 and you check it? Like
Or is it just change your pack? And if you don't have one, you miss your
In
heat.
the raw race, if you go over 8.4, they disqualify you from whether it's a qualifier or a heat date. If you don't check your battery and you come over there and it's a 4.1, and you can't be like, oh, let me burn a little off. They disqualify you right there on the spot. You know?
Wow, we're getting late. We gotta get into this playlist. Holy shit. Let me get this fucking thing going.
I actually got to get going, boys, but it was a pleasure.
Right
seeing
on.
you again.
Oh yeah,
Fuck
man.
yeah, man.
Always a
Welcome
pleasure,
anytime,
buddy.
dude.
Thanks, Sammy. Thank you, brothers.
Word.
You have a
It's
wonderful
good to
night,
see you
everybody.
again.
See you later,
too, buddy.
chat.
Much love,
Take it
brother.
easy, bro.
Take
Much love.
care. Let me get this playlist going. Make sure refresh it. We might not even get through the whole playlist because we're
No, you will.
okay. Cool. Greg, the man on the
Dude.
playlist.
I'll tell you one thing. Since I'm editing, I took your advice, and because my Adobe subscription was expired, I started using DaVinci Resolve 18, and I'm doing everything with DaVinci Resolve. I watched about 6 hours worth of tutorials before I started making videos. But he told me years ago to start using DaVinci Resolve. It's pretty awesome. Very powerful.
It is nice.
Resolve is a lot. Can be. You can.
It's amazing.
You can
Yeah.
bite. The cool thing about DaVinci is you can just bite off sections, and you don't have to ever really use Fusion
sections,
or
yeah, you take the
Fairlight
lines.
half the time. There's tons of shit you
The
don't.
lines, you could disconnect the line and add another
And actually,
photo and
if-
connect that line
if
to
you
the whole.
if you don't know this,
formula.
you can actually hide pages. There's actually options where, like, if you never want to see Fusion, you can just turn off the tab, and you won't ever see it until you're ready to turn it back on, which is
See, like,
actually
figures. There is no disqualification. They do let you discharge in the drone world. That's cool. Raw is much. They're very, very strict. It's very annoying. They literally don't let you race if anything is off at all. They check everything. ESC, weight, motor certification, battery certification has to be raw certified. Tires, body has to be certain height. It's just ridiculous, bro. Spagoo.
it's hot. Yeah,
See, I could tell right away watching him fly, that's a thumb pilot. Or at least hybrid. Tell right away.
He's
Nice,
hybrid.
Smooth,
hybrid.
nice, smooth, snappy.
Pretty sure.
Nice snap.
A lot of plane
Can't
guys are
remember.
true pinchers. A lot of guys I think that think their pinchers are more hybrid.
Hybrid, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like me. I'm hybrid because I keep my thumbs on top. You know? Nice flow.
I only have one RC car, and it's like a 36 scale or something. It's tiny. I have a micro, maybe not
Yeah.
quite. It's a short course truck. It's a Lassie,
That's
old school
28
Lassie.
scales, Mini Z.
No, it's not a mini Z. It's not a mini. It's oh fuck. It's a micro.
36 is small, bro. That's real small. Great pilot.
Mine's tricked. It's all fucking aluminum, minus the body.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I even 3D printed fucking drift wheels for it.
Cal Pride is big into the Mini
I'll have to
Z
send. I thought
right
you might
now.
have seen mine before. I'll have to send you a picture of it.
I think you did send it to me. I remember.
It's probably in the Goon Squad Discord from about several years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin is looking to race out in Long Island and have a Mini Z track. He's taking his son there. volume up on this. Can't hear anything. Well, the night cooler's kicking in, boys. Starting to feel it. It's like a drug.
I need to get I need to get one of them new stream decks. If you want to drop some vids, drop them in the Goon Squad post your vids here channel, and definitely try to get them in there.
I'm gonna get an echo with this like this.
Yeah, I can hear myself.
Yeah. It's always funny listening to yourself talk, right? Same thing when I hear myself talk.
Can't do it. I
Like,
cringe.
that's what I sound like? Fuck. Did you ever make a video like, you know, like
Never.
do like a one-on-one before you do a flight video? And then you're like, hey guys, how you doing? And then you like look at yourself and like, what the fuck? Is that what people look at every day when they see me? Is that what I look like? You know?
Anytime I try to talk to the camera, I just feel so fucking awkward. Like I'm like, hey guys.
Yeah. Just facial expressions.
Like,
I
dude,
do
so
the
many.
same thing.
It would be so many clips of me just starting to talk and then going fuck, and then starting to talk again. And then, fuck. All right, I can cut that. Fuck. All right, let's try to talk again. Oh shit. Fuck.
Coming back in 3.
I love the fact
2,
that
1.
somebody
Hey, guys.
somebody types Discord and it comes up. Oh, you gotta turn that down a little more, Cement. I can hear
Oh,
myself.
you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I got.
Or you're
a
too
sensitive
close to
mic.
your mic or something. Yeah.
This mic is fucking super sensitive. I'll just turn it off. Fuck's the difference. I want to hear the music in the videos. No big deal.
Are you not getting any of the music through the Zoom?
No.
I guess. Is it off tonight,
Oh
Greg?
yeah, no, there's no music.
Really?
It's off. It doesn't matter anyway.
Hold on,
because-
stop talking for 1 sec. Yeah, no, there's no music on the.
It does that every now and then.
I didn't notice I had the audio on the stream muted because I can't do with echoing.
There it is. That's better. Yeah, I can't. You know, I'll tell you the truth. I was thinking of. I don't even. You know what I found too that I still have, which I'm lucky. I still got my session 5, bro.
Right on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna use.
Still
I'm thinking
work?
about building out. Yeah, I turned it on. It works. I just gotta get a new SD card for it. But I was thinking about building this out analog and throwing a session 5 on here just to make a legitimate quality video through DaVinci. I want to try doing it the right way because the last video I posted was old footage. You've seen it. It's old footage. It's all analog, but made me sad watching that, bro. I'll tell you the truth because I moved to Florida and I was like, I'm going through the flight footage and I was like, oh man, I miss Bayside. I miss my jobs. I miss being able to.
Yeah, I miss the city.
I miss living in Florida. I've never lived in Florida, but I miss it.
Florida's awesome, dude.
It's probably way better than Massachusetts.
It's just different life down here. It's just slower. You know what I mean?
Discord link
bit
is in the
cold.
chat if you didn't see it. Swift Duck is the DJ every week, putting together our playlist.
It's awesome.
If you ever want to make sure something gets on, just send him a message in the Discord and he'll help you out.
Yeah, if you post a video in the post my vid section and you mention that you want it in the stream, as long as it's not like a
20-minute
excessively long
video. Yeah.
I'll put it in.
Would you be able to put a feed of the video like one of the pilot windows in the Zoom meeting? Because what happens to me every single week, I don't know why, but there's a big time difference for me. It's like 20 seconds time difference
You have to
between-
fast forward YouTube, but I can't do it on this rig. I used to be able to do it, and it was in time, but I can't do it right now.
Yeah, best you could do right now is go to
Go to
click that
YouTube.
little gear on the
Yeah.
YouTube video, go to playback speed, select 2, and then once the video slows itself back down, you'll be as close as you can to live.
Yep.
I'll go to 2, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
2
you're saying
times
let
speed.
it just full. That's smart because it speeds it up.
And it'll eventually
I
catch
feel
up.
like I hear me right now.
Yeah. I have to
See, this whole video is in analog.
Nothing wrong with analog.
No, it's like my point I was making last week. It's people shoot for different things. Most of the time when I was flying, it wasn't so much about production quality of the image more than the flying for me. That's like the flying was always the most important thing, and that's why I was very partial to the Insta360 Go, because it was very light and then it gave you a usable, acceptable HD video. But
90% of the video I shot with a session or whatever was always just for me to see what I was doing. Like, and that was the only reason why when I started flying, I carried a GoPro really, was because I just wanted to see what I was doing. And especially when I was racing and like doing warm-ups, I could run the track, and sometimes we'd be doing races like multiple days, so I could go back and look at my footage and see what I was doing. And
third party.
Of course, you can do it with a fucking with your DVR, obviously. But when I was ultimately racing, I wasn't carrying a GoPro, but I would always try to get a couple laps with a GoPro so I could see what was going on and really see what was going on.
See this video, all the footage is obviously all DVR through the goggles. This is when I had the HDO2s. So actually, no, I'm sorry. I recorded this all with the Power Play. Remember the Power Play?
Yeah,
that thing was awesome. But I had the Insta360 Go footage from all these flights too in HD, but I deleted them from my computer because they were taking up room.
Right.
So I deleted them. So when I made this video, I was scavenging my files trying to find those Insta360 videos of the footage, and I couldn't find them.
I'm a footage hoarder, man. I don't delete anything.
I should. I'm gonna start doing it. When I start flying again. I'm gonna put everything on SD cards.
I've lost some footage. I've had some shit crash, and I've lost some footage along the way.
I still have some of my first ever flights.
But I buy drives, like cheap drives, and back shit up and just put it on the shelf. And when I need to make that room, I just fucking...
I know I'm never going to use any of it.
Of course not. I know. But you never know you don't want to be cementkidd one day. Like, fuck, where's that footage I had? Oh, fuck, I deleted it.
Like, you see this footage right now that we're just passing with the Citicorp building? I wish I had that in HD, bro. I don't, obviously, but... That was epic, bro. That's a landmark in New York. It's like a 70-something story building. It was just a great shot. And in analog, it's okay. I slowed it down just for the sake of the music to tie it in. But I wish I had that shot, man, in HD. And now I'll never have it because I'm not in New York anymore. It's not like I'm going to go there on vacation and dive a Citicorp building again. You know what I mean? But, a lot of lost footage. I regret deleting a lot of that stuff.
I'm a whore. I just keep buying more hard drives, and when they're full, I pull them out of the computer and I put it on the shelf and fucking.
At Best Buy, but I don't work there anymore and don't get a discount, so my purchasing power of random shit has diminished.
Oh, you get a hot swap bay for your computer. You buy cheap but decent mechanical hard drives. You use SSDs when you're editing and whatever. And then when you want to back up shit, you put it on that mechanical. And when that mechanical gets full, you just pull it out and put it on a shelf and get another cheap mechanical. Yeah, dude. And you can buy like 2, 4, 8 terabytes for under $100, bro. Like, well, I mean,
especially now,
it's
like,
fucking crazy. Yeah.
Even though this is all DVR footage, I recorded it and rendered it in 4K just to play with DaVinci a little bit. And dude, it came out to like 7.8 gigs. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
so now,
it'll do that.
Well, dude, if you're running the studio version, they have
that's the paid one, or
yeah, if you have the paid version, you can actually super sample like you can take like 1080 footage and actually super sample upscale it to 4K really, really well. It's fucking kind of frightening. Versus like, because if you take 1080 footage and just render it as 4K, it doesn't really add pixels, right? It just kind of stretches them. But when you super sample, it effectively rewrites pixels based on the color information it has, and actually just creating those pixels.
You know, Duck, where is this? I didn't know Bando exists in Massachusetts.
Oh, there's probably a ton of them.
In Massachusetts?
It's gotta be.
No.
It's a city.
In Massachusetts? No, we
Well,
will fucking
Boston,
clear out
yeah.
any kind of abandoned
right?
thing
Like
as soon as
Boston?
it possibly can, yeah.
New York is certainly not like that.
No, New York and,
New York. We used to fly Pilgrim. It's been abandoned for how many years? That section.
Yeah, but it's not
Like
in the
20
city though.
No, but I'm saying New York in general. It just
like
they-
even
everything's
Boston, if
dilapidated
something
forever.
goes abandoned, it'll become used or it will be torn down.
Well, you know what it is. You know what it is in the city is they sit on it until
Oh, yeah, it's not even
either
in
they
Massachusetts.
sit on a bando in the city until either the property value goes through the roof or it burns down and they can cash it in. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, one of my on my bucket list for 23 on my bucket list. is-
Manchester.
No, all the failing malls. I'm sure there's abandoned, like big abandoned malls in Florida. I want to find an abandoned mall, get inside of it, and just rip, bro. You know, with different levels, and, you know, the gazebos and everything else. You get a good link with good video.
That one that Waldo
video
had
link.
for a minute was awesome. Those guys up in Wisconsin had an awesome mall for a
Oh,
while.
right. I remember those videos. Yeah, that's actually what gave me the inspiration. Believe it or not, I was like, wow, I would love to rip in a mall.
I thought
You know who
the
else
suburbs
finds-
of Boston was a bando.
Another whoever, you know who else finds fantastic spots is Brad, and he lives close to me.
Yeah.
Like he's got that one spot he rips in with that parking lot. It's like an office park, and it's that parking lot, and he's got like this gap between the building and the parking lot, and he does like an S, a split S, and he hits that gap, and then he goes through the parking lot. This low altitude, very very small window. It's like maybe 8-foot ceiling for the cars. It's very small, but the footage is fantastic because it shows such precision to hit that. I would love to try that. You know, I'm gonna hook up with him as soon as I build my quad. I spoke to him already. He's like, I'm taking you right to Bando Island. I was like, awesome. Count me in. Oh, boys, the NyQuil is knocking me out. I think I reached my limit.
We just
I gotta
we
wake
got a
up
few
tomorrow.
videos and then we out. So fucking,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah, no.
We ran a
So
little
I
later
hung-
than expected tonight too. So
Yeah, I hung in there for a while. It's 1 o'clock. Did good. 3 hours. I'm happy. But pleasure, guys, in the stream. Love you guys, all of you. And I'll see you guys next week. I'll be, yeah.
all right, Cement.
Take it easy, man. Have a good week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
be
same
good,
to you,
bro.
buddy. Take care, guys. Be good.
Much
Later,
love.
bro.
Later.
Got what is real?
I want to see Rotorisco come to Multi GP. Gotta to do IO next year. Shout out to Cement Kid. Shout out to Goonie coming through. It's cool.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to all y'all still hanging out with us in the chat.
You guys are the real ones.
You guys.
You going to IO, Chad? Briscoe asks.
If I am here, I will go to IO.
Where is it?
Muncie, Indiana.
Ooh.
Dude, the fucked up thing was last year, like, nobody hardly went to IO. Like, there was a lot of people that did not go to IO last year. A lot of people that did.
Got Josky FPV. I hate ticks.
Word? Yeah, I think that, let's just see where we're sitting in the spring.
It's a very blue.
I mean, I would definitely check out IO no matter what. And I would love to, I need to get over there. It's been ages. Fucking, Muncie's not far from me. I just couldn't coordinate a means last year to make it happen.
That place must have a habit or a history of people stealing the basketball hoops. There's none on them.
No hoops?
None.
That's every hoop in New York City.
It's usually the net that goes first. Growing up, I never had any nets on any inner city hoops ever. It was always just the rim. And the basketball hoop was like fucking 70 feet tall.
If you were lucky, you'd have the remnants of a chain hoop.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I would definitely, like, I don't know where exactly I'm gonna be. I have some goals for this year that I need to be making happen, and kind of take it from there. To be fair, I could always come home to go to IO, even if I'm not here.
It's a nice spot, man. I would like to rip up to the top of that hill. Looks close enough.
Yeah, I'd like to go over to the flight test spot as well.
I wish there was something like that around here.
Well, now that I've got, hopefully I'll be, well, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be really, but I'm at 9 months as a non-smoker, and now I got to start trying to lose the fat and getting back into shape. So I want to get out there and be doing some shit. A lot more shit.
Get a VR headset and play The Walking Dead.
Actually, I have a
exercise.
VR headset, but I don't really have a place to VR here at the moment. So
You got Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I have
Just
Wi-Fi.
go out in the yard. You have a yard?
Oh, yeah, I don't have a wireless VR helmet. I'm still on
Oh,
an umbilical.
dude, that shit is the funnest shit ever. Like during the summer, if your Wi-Fi is strong enough and it goes out into the yard, you go take one of the quests and you draw the biggest possible circle that you can, and you get, dude, so much room to like run around and shit. It makes
funny.
VR so much more fun. And you probably look fucking stupid doing it, but it's fun as hell. Like, what's this madman doing? Flips in his yard for? What's he wearing on his head?
Dude, carrying that goddamn camera through the desert was like an insane workout.
Bet.
The next thing you need to do, Darkwing, is we need to see. I want to see dual 360 cameras, stereo 360.
Can see into another dimension.
They used to make. Actually, you're probably hip to it. They used to make 3D fucking analog cameras, and a lot of the Fat Sharks had 3D mode.
It's like a stair climb up to 1,000 feet.
Wonky nips. I always wanted to do a stereo fucking FPV cam on a fucking head tracker. What we need to do is we could get stereo digital. That would be insane. I would love to see a stereo digital setup for FPV. Dude, I'm telling you, I was looking at. I have been watching your 3D videos actually, and I was moving my phone around and because I've done a lot of 360 stuff, and I was like, and I hit the limit, and I was like, fuck. But it's super cool. Fucking stereo 360 would definitely be. It'd be a lot of processing, but it would be fucking insanity.
What kind of place has closed roads like this?
Yeah, dude, I'm just sitting back watching you, bro. Seriously, I was thinking that. I wanted to say it to you. I was like, dude, you have to do some of that shit when you can. You'll get there.
I'm starting to think Jason FPV is actually from the future, and this is like, because like you never see any cars or anything like that in his videos. It's like he's fucking from a post-apocalyptic future, and he's sending us videos from the future to the past. Because like this city he's in right now looks dead as fuck. What city is that anyway?
I mean, with the 360, when I started fucking around with 360 stuff, it was literally fucking like 6 or 8 GoPros, and we were stitching it all together and fucking doing 360 with that shit. And then to do stereo, you need to... Dude, the fucking resolution is ginormous. But with VR, I felt like really with VR, like... like when the Vive and stuff came out, like the res... I think with 360 VR, you want to be at like... You gotta be at least fucking like 8K for good... I think, man, for good stereo 360, 4K really, but like minimum, but it's rough. That's a lot of processor. It's funny, you typed drone co and the bot replied. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Yeah, because I think when the Vive came out, it was only like 1440p. It wasn't that fucking... wasn't that high. The HMDs are getting way better.
Interested to see what PlayStation's next move is for their VR headset for the PlayStation 5.
Dude, my umbilical rig, Greg, I have a fucking a leap motion sensor that I have a bracket on the front of my headset with a leap motion, so I can have fucking hands in VR. Like, it actually tracks my hands.
That's sick.
But I'm corded. It's a crazy rig, actually. I'm corded, but I got a lot of cord. And with those systems, you use lighthouses for the tracking, so it's pretty fucking accurate. You can create your space however big you want.
That was the biggest issue I had with the PlayStation VR, is the tracking was terrible. Like, I was trying to play Skyrim, and the fucking, it would think my hands are over here, like way to the left, and it would think my head is to the right. So like, in order to get able to stay straight and move correctly, I would literally have to like walk around like this, and no amount of trying to calibrate it or reset it would fix it, because as soon as you do it and pick up the controls, they would be over here. But it was cool to kill a wolf from like fucking 30 yards away with an arrow that my character was holding, as my controller floated up the mountain by itself somehow, and just
yeah, I've seen,
the wolf.
I've had them every once in a while. You still get that, even with the lighthouses, but it's way.
I didn't get any of that when
less.
I played with the Quest. That was a pretty smooth experience. I had a lot of fun with that. I forget the name of the game. It was some like anti-gravity arena ball game where you have this fucking like disc, and like you could beat people with the disc, and then like you could throw it, and it's like Tron mixed with like that fucking thing in Ender's Game. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
It was like that, dude. Fun as
cool.
hell.
Yeah, there's definitely some. I was playing Onward, which is like Call of Duty. It's pretty fun.
Got Bubby. Some immaculate flow. I like how Bubby, when he's like, he'll like come around a corner, and then like at the last second, there's like a dive gap right around the corner where he turns.
Yeah, he always has a fucking dive gap somewhere. It's like he has one in his back pocket at all times.
Yeah. And it'll just come out of nowhere. Like, I don't know if he spent a lot of time flying at this particular location, but his lines look very well thought out.
I mean, pretty soon you can
Well,
just
clowns can't sleep because I'll eat them.
pretty soon you're just gonna be able to get Neuralink and just you won't even need a VR headset. Just gonna jack in.
That'd be nice.
Happy birthday! Yes, I play this. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Don't let the clowns eat you. Sick video.
Booby, I like that logo.
Hells yeah. What is it? Oh, is it the end?
That is.
It was the end. No random video this week. Oh, what's in the playlist? Get some drum and bass, some Josh Bardwell, some crashing, some cameras. It's us. What is it? Algorithmic live sci-fi dissolve. Holy shit. And some drum and bass and some dub. That's what we got. No random video this week. I'm almost disappointed. Yeah. What triggers that? That's weird. Let's see here. Bang! All right, well, shit. Yay, it is your birthday. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show and anticipated seeing you at some point or messaging you if I hadn't this evening. But happy birthday. But that is it. That is the end of this. And I agree, don't hang your feet off the edge of the bed. Whoops. I tapped the wrong button. We're almost over. It was almost a bye without a bye. A bye. Friends of coffee. Word. Right on. That's awesome. Well, shit. Well, next week, once again, we have Street League Spec coming in hot for an interview. We're super excited. Should be a great show. And thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Listen to us nerding out with us. We love you guys. Make some fucking dope shit. Go make cool shit.
Hells yeah.
Happy birthday, Trinity.
Yeah, happy birthday. Everybody have a great night.
Love yous. Bye.
Bye.
Fucking split a hat. I could do a fucking split a hat. Done a million times. I could do a fucking split a hat. You pop out, and then roll, then that is split a fucking split a hat. I could do a fucking split a hat. You pop out, and then roll. I mean, pop it. You roll.
I don't buy
and
into
then
whatever
you go in
bullshit you're saying.
to the shit. Powerly, blind, powerly, then, powerly, blind, powerly, then. I could do a fucking split a hat. Roll, then. That is split a fucking split a hat. I could do a fucking split a hat. You pop out, and then roll. I mean, pop it.
That's pretty much the only trick that I know.
You guys.
It is Wednesday, my
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight.